The story begins in a world filled with danger, where a young adventurer found himself staring up at a terrifying wall of giant worms. He lunged forward with a desperate cry, his blade flashing as he struck at the monstrous creature with all his might. It is said that there exist 9 distinct races in this land, and looking at the boy's strained face, the hierarchy was clear. Suddenly, a powerful dragonute named Drago, level 512, stepped in to shield him, asking if Light was all right. An elf named Sasha, level 308, joined the fray, scolding Light for getting ahead of himself and calling him troublesome. They were joined by Diablo the demon, Nano the dwarf, and Abaro the ghoul. People whispered that this place, the Abyss, was one of the most brutal dungeons in existence. Center the Centaur and Shin the Dark Elf were confident, boasting that as long as their party, the Gathering of Races, combined their power, even this dungeon would be a walk in the park. Garu the Beastman stepped forward, telling Light that he was right to be afraid and should leave the fighting to them and stay back. He demanded to know if the human understood his place. This was Light, a mere level 15 human. Light knew the truth all too well. Humans possessed average strength and were looked down upon as the weakest of the 9 races. He could only agree with a quiet yes. Looking into the deep, cavernous dungeon known as the Abyss, they chided him for his recklessness. Sasha warned him sternly that in the Abyss, the most difficult and brutal dungeon, he would die in a single hit, knowing fully well how weak he was. Garu the Beastman teased Sasha, remarking that she was always so kind to Light. Sasha flustered, yelling "Geez," before demanding Light show her his wounds, while Light apologized for being so useless. She stammered in a classic display of denial, insisting she wasn't worried about him at all. She claimed she was only concerned that losing a member of the Gathering of Races would ruin their reputation. Light apologized again for causing trouble. The others laughed, teasing Sasha as she yelled at them. They agreed the two fit each other well and chided her for not being honest. Drago reassured him, saying that the tea Light made was enough reason to keep him around. Light thought to himself that despite humans being called the weakest, his party treated a 12-year-old like him very well. They were good people who treated everyone equally. He beamed with happiness, saying yes, glad that he had joined this party. Eventually, they arrived at a well-lit area within the cave, a rare safe spot in the darkness. They noted that the area had only one entrance and seemed secure. Ah, the classic single-entrance safety check. In the history of dungeon crawling, that sentence has a survival rate of exactly 0%. Light innocently asked if they were taking a break and began to prepare the tea. But then the cold words were spoken. They had decided to kick him out of the party. Light stammered, thinking he had done something wrong, promising to stay back. But they cut him off, clarifying they kicked him out because they simply didn't need him anymore. The demeanor of the party shifted instantly. They sighed in relief at finally getting rid of the dead weight, complaining about how miserable it was to share space with a human. The elf scoffed, wondering if all humans were this bad at reading the room or just dumb. She revealed that their kindness had been nothing but an act to let him into the party. Drago explained that compared to other humans, Light offered a specific, better gift to them. Light realized they were talking about his rare chance gift obtained at 10 years old, the unlimited Gacha. It was a mysterious power he didn't quite understand, a gift he had been lucky to receive. He explained that by pushing a button, he received a card which could manifest objects into the real world. However, as everyone knew since he got it 2 years ago, it was a useless gift, producing only moldy bread or damaged spoons. Light was confused, but they repeated that this uselessness was exactly why they didn't need him anymore. They revealed they had only brought him along for observation. The higher-ups had suspected he might be a master with a mysterious gift. But the conclusion was reached: he was not a master, his gift was trash and his status was merely human. Light asked, bewildered, what a master even was. The elf shuddered, recalling how disgusting it was to act friendly. She laughed at how funny it was to see him act friendly back. She had only done it for her country to accept the blood of a master, but the thought of marrying a human gave her goosebumps. Drago noted they had said too much. Light, still on his knees, tried to make sense of the words master and country. The order was given to clean up before other adventurers arrived. They couldn't let him leak any information. They clarified that while kicking him out was the stated plan, the truth was different. Orders from above demanded he be eliminated. To eliminate the seed of disaster, they were told to kill him just in case. They coldly told him to die and get kicked out of this world. The beastman lunged, claws bared, striking at the defenseless boy. Light desperately tried to believe it was a prank, but the beastman roared with laughter, declaring it was finally fun hunting time. Because nothing screams elite warrior quite like needing a full party of high-level monsters to ambush one confused 12-year-old. Light's mind raced, struggling to reconcile the nice people he knew with the murderers standing before him, shouting to kill everyone. Tears streamed down his face as he whimpered, asking if they were really going to kill him. He tried to run, but they mocked him. Even if he did run, a mere human couldn't outrun monsters in the abyss. An arrow whistled through the air as they shouted they wouldn't let him run, piercing his leg as he tried to flee. He tumbled to the ground, screaming in agony as he rolled across the rocky surface. The attackers reveled in his pain, shouting that his expression and scream were exactly why they couldn't stop hunting humans. A heavy boot slammed into him with a solid kick. Coughing up blood, Light dragged himself across the ground, desperate to get away. His cries of pain echoed in the cavern as the agony overwhelmed him. The others joined in, clamoring for a piece of him and asking to try some torture magic. But Sasha stopped them, warning that any more wounds would look suspicious. The cover story was that he died attacked by a monster, so they couldn't play with him too much. The beastman pinned him down, offering a twisted form of mercy, a quick death without suffering as thanks for the entertainment of playing with him. Light screamed no, one last time shouting "Die Light" in his own mind as the final blow descended. He whimpered that he didn't want to die, his body being dragged across the floor. Even as he coughed and clung to life, the beastman found his persistence annoying, while the others urged him to finish it. The beastman licked his chops, saying the struggle made him want to pummel Light even more. Light's thoughts swirled in confusion. He was going to die without knowing anything, asking what this master thing was. Surrounded by his betrayers, he realized with finality that no one was coming to save him. Escape was impossible. The gap in their races and levels was simply too vast. And yet, as he was dragged, a tiny spark of defiance remained. The Dragonute looked down with utter disdain, remarking on how disgusting humans were. Said the walking handbag who probably sheds his skin on the living room furniture. Talk about projecting. Despite the fear and the pain, Light reached out, his soul screaming that he still didn't want to die, that he wanted to live. Suddenly, the ground beneath him erupted in light. A magic circle activated. Before the beastman could finish him, Light vanished. They cursed, realizing he had triggered a teleportation trap. Light reappeared in a different, darker part of the cave, panting heavily, wondering if he had been saved. He lay there, battered and broken, realizing he got away thanks to the teleportation trap. He looked around, asking where he teleported to, realizing he was still inside the dungeon. Tears welled up in his eyes again as the adrenaline faded and the pain returned. He curled up, sobbing uncontrollably, asking the darkness why he had to suffer like this. Alone in the dark, he cried out for his family, missing his dad, mom, brother, and Yum, wishing only to go back to his village. Light questioned the unfairness of it all, lamenting that he was just someone from a farming village who didn't want to die without seeing his family again. He recalled how his plans didn't go well and his money dried up. That's when the gathering of races invited him, and he foolishly thought he could finally help his family by going with them. He remembered their inspiring words about creating an equal world together. He trusted them, respected them, and was grateful for the kindness they showed him, or so he thought. But now, realizing the truth, he gritted his teeth in pure rage. He screamed that they had lied about everything. They had laughed at him, humiliated him like trash, and dragged him underground to kill him. He shouted in frustration about their excuse of killing him just in case or because of some master's suspicion. He cursed them, demanding to know what a master even was. His eye glowed with ominous energy as he swore a blood oath to kill them all. He forced his battered body to move, declaring he would die as many times as it took to get his revenge. He refused to just sit there and rot. He swore to return to his family and take his revenge, no matter what kind of monster he encountered. Suddenly, he froze. A massive, terrifying wolf loomed over him, growling. Light realized with despair that he was going to die no matter what. He panicked, realizing he was too late and the blood had led the monster right to him. He stammered, unable to process the creature's level. The status screen appeared, identifying the beast as a hellhound level 1000. Light stared in disbelief, screaming level 1000. He wondered why something straight out of a folktale existed here. He looked around the jagged cave, wondering if the teleportation trap had dumped him in the deepest part of the abyss. He reasoned that only the deepest part could explain the presence of a legendary-grade monster. He shivered uncontrollably, not knowing where to go but knowing he had to run. He scrambled to flee, telling himself he had to run, because surely his level 15 legs could outpace a legendary beast. The optimism of the desperate is truly something to behold. But he stopped, realizing the futility. A level 15 human couldn't possibly escape a level 1000 monster in the deepest part of the abyss. The hellhound, revealing it had two heads, growled down at him. Light cried out that he couldn't die yet. He frantically checked his pockets for a knife or flint, realizing he had no way to defend himself. Then he remembered the only thing he had left was his gift, unlimited gacha. He screamed like hell, refusing to let it end like this. He shouted for something, anything, to come out, crying that he hadn't met his family yet. He begged for something to distract the monster, hoping for anything better than the usual rotten buns or boots. A massive, intricate magic circle expanded beneath the hellhound. The hellhound paused, confused by the sudden light appearing. Light watched in confusion as light spun around rapidly. The spinning intensified. The hellhound growled, unsure of what was happening. The beast lunged and Light flinched. The massive jaws opened wide to devour him. Light thought this was the end, resigning himself to seeing his life flash before his eyes inside a monster's mouth. Suddenly, a slash cut through the air. A cold voice spoke, appalled that a beast dared to point its fangs at her lord. The voice declared she would show no mercy, even to a dog. A beautiful maid stood amidst the carnage, her presence radiating power. She landed gracefully, surrounded by the shattered remains of the level 1000 monster. Talk about a cleanup crew. She didn't just kill the dog, she practically deleted it from the source code. Light stared at her, completely stunned. She floated in the air. This time our boy got his first monstrous girl, trust me, it's only first. The story starts with the sound of a splash and a kneel echoing in the darkness. The maid admitted that although she might have overstepped her boundaries, she could not stand the sight of her lord's injuries, so she took the liberty of healing them. She then looked at him and praised his wonderful features and his skin, describing it as beautiful as pearls. Light noticed his wounds were healing and exclaimed in shock that it didn't hurt anymore. He then turned to her and sincerely apologized for his selfish actions. The maid spoke, complimenting his beautiful voice, and asked if he could please tell her his name. Light stammered that he was Light. She repeated Light-sama softly to herself, savoring the sound of his name. With a flushed face, she declared that it was a wonderful and noble name. She proclaimed that she could even die for her lord. She stated that she lived for him and devoted everything to him as her life as a maid. She leaned in close and swore her eternal loyalty to her lord. Light, overwhelmed, stuttered and tried to find the words to respond. She thanked him very much and apologized for her late introduction. Light stammered a sure, but she asked if she might have the privilege of introducing herself. A status window appeared displaying her information as a level 9999 seeker maid May, a SUR card. She introduced herself as SUR level 9999 seeker maid May. She explained that she was summoned by Light Sama's gift, Unlimited Gacha, as a SUR card. Light was bewildered, asking if she really came from his unlimited gacha, and questioned if she was really level 9999 and a super ultra rare card. She vowed that she would be in his care even after death. She promised to become a bird of wings in the sky and said her loyalty would become ever-growing on land. Light thought to himself that there was no way she was level 9999. May continued, promising that as long as she was by his lord's side, whatever monster might reside in this dungeon, she would never let it lay even a finger on Light Sama's elegant skin. Light fell to his knees, thinking there was no way his unlimited gacha could summon someone as strong as May-san, believing that even a human coming out of gacha was impossible. He lamented that his gift could usually only produce nothing but trash. May interrupted him with tears in her eyes, begging him to just call her May. She insisted that he did not need formality in front of a maid like her. His generous heart, saying it was as expected of Light Sama. She thanked him from the bottom of her heart for listening to this servant's request. Light awkwardly tried to say her name. She asked if she might have the liberty of confirming it with her identify skill. She stated it was impossible for Light Sama's majestic instrument, Unlimited Gacha, to be a defect. Light asked if she meant she wanted to use identify. He agreed by all means, while realizing that technically it was only one of the skills he possessed. He was surprised that May had the gift Identify. She activated Identify and the system glowed. She noted that anyone lower level than her would not be able to see the details. She asked him to pardon her rudeness as the system beeped and thumped. She marveled at his amazing powers. It seems blinking lights and loud beeping noises are the universal language of overpowered abilities. She smiled and admitted that, as expected of Light Sama, she could not see the depth of his powers. She explained the ranking system, listing X as extreme, SUR as super ultra rare, as ultra rare, down to normal and error. She stated that the thickness of the surrounding magic affected the result of his unlimited gacha. She noted that mages use magic in the air and asked what that meant. She explained that unlimited gacha absorbs that magic and produces cards. She reasoned that in that sense, the chance skyrocketed when he came down here where the magic is thick. However, she noted that the magic in the air on the surface was very thin, so summoning a SUR like her would be almost impossible there. Light realized that all he knew was that he could summon someone as awesome as May in the bottom of the abyss. He thought to himself that he could only understand half of what she said, but he saw the point. She praised him, saying it was just to summon her. She called him someone worthy of the devotion of a maid for understanding the uniqueness of his unlimited gacha and coming down to the lowest floor by himself. She noted that he could have endangered himself if he encountered a monster. She started to say that coming here all by himself with his status empty-handed was reckless. She stopped herself and asked if something was the problem. She vowed that as a maid, she would forever be by his side from now on. Light told May, who had misunderstood everything, the truth. He explained that he couldn't endure the thought of his teammates betraying him and cried halfway through. He told her how he ended up like that in the bottom of the abyss by himself. May wrapped her arms around him and hugged him tightly. She cried, realizing that a maid like her could never even understand Light Sama's painful experiences. May suddenly turned menacing. She asked him to please give her the order. With her name as a maid on the line, she vowed to bring those rotten eggs' heads to her lord within an hour so he could befall judgment on them, as long as he wielded her power. Light panicked and told her to wait. He stated that mercy is meaningless, even though she argued that she understood Light Sama was a kind person. Light clarified that wasn't it. He explained that he had no means of showing mercy towards them. He looked at the jagged landscape and admitted that he trusted them and was tricked. He looked down at his hand and said it was because he was weak. He clenched his fist and declared that he would become stronger and get his revenge on them. Light wondered if May thought a mere human like him couldn't do it after all. He declared that he wanted to know everything about the master and the country that tried to kill him. Nothing motivates a protagonist quite like a checklist of enemies to destroy. May bowed and said if Light Sama wished to get revenge with his own hands, she asked him to allow her to assist him in the name of the maid. She declared that Light Sama's wish was also her wish. Light smiled brightly and thanked May. May blushed deeply and lowered her head, saying his kind words were wasted on her. Light narrated that he would have to create comrades and his own kingdom down here in order to achieve his plans following May's suggestions. 3 years have passed since the betrayal. The story resumes in the deepest, most treacherous part of the abyss, a place where sunlight never reaches. Footsteps echoed through the silent halls as a group of uniformed maids walked with purpose. Light, now older and exuding an aura of authority, greeted them warmly, telling everyone they had done good work. He smiled gently as they responded in unison, thanking their master. The professionalism evaporated instantly. The maids erupted into squeals of fanatical devotion, one screaming that she wanted to lick the floor even if it was just a hair from Light Sama's toe, while another called her a pervert. They celebrated their luck that Light Sama had actually spoken to them. Light giggled, taking their obsession as a sign they liked him, but another maid. She asked for permission to shut all the noisy fairies up. Suddenly, a voice cut through the noise. Light recognized it immediately as a girl shouted that she wasn't an idiot. Light smiled, realizing they were in the training center. Inside, a cat-tiered beastkin, a witch, and a hooded figure stood together. Nazuna was eager to prove herself, declaring she would show them she could do the multiplication table as proof of her intelligence. But she didn't know. The witch looked at her with pity, calling her an unbelievable idiot who couldn't even do the tables. Light entered the room, noting that everyone was gathered. Nazuna immediately abandoned her math lesson and jumped at him, screaming his name in joy because he had come to see her. The witch, Iri, was appalled. She scoffed that there was no way Light Sama came to see someone lacking elegance like Nazuna. She struck a pose, declaring she was always ready to bear Light Sama's heir. Iri teased Nazuna for acting like a pervert when she was just a virgin, then shamelessly invited Light to her room. Light panicked, demanding to know where she learned such things. Nazuna, completely innocent, claiming the fairy maids taught her the words. The hooded figure, Aoyuki, silently latched onto Light's leg. Nazuna complained that it wasn't fair that Blue Snow always got to cling to him. Light admitted he couldn't help himself because she looked like a cat, scratching Aoyuki's chin while Nazuna protested the unfair treatment. Light called for attention, saying it was time to get to the point. He told Aoyuki to listen as well, announcing he had something to tell the three of them. He began to speak of his past, admitting that his body still froze whenever he saw a hellhound. He looked down, sweat forming on his brow, confessing it was because of what happened 3 years ago. The three girls instantly emitted a terrifying, dark aura. They expressed their disgust that a mere dog would dare act so rude to Light Sama. They ranted that they had been kind enough to let the species live, but for raising a fang against Light Sama, judgment would befall them. They suggested erasing the species both physically and from history records. They declared that upsetting their master was enough reason to erase the hellhound's existence right then and there. Sending it to hell wouldn't be punishment enough. You have to admire the loyalty. Most friends just buy you ice cream after a breakup. These girls are ready to commit genocide on a species of dogs. Their status plates revealed their terrifying power. Nazuna the true vampire knight, Iri the forbidden mage, and Aoyuki the monster tamer, all level 9999. The hellhound in the room shivered in terror. Light reassured them he was fine now, pointing out that the dog was scared too, so they could stop releasing their level 9999 strength. Nazuna switched from bloodlust to cheerfulness instantly. She declared she always prioritized Light Sama's words and would forgive the dog if he said so, admitting it was cute if you got used to it. The hellhound remained petrified. Nazuna asked what he wanted to tell them. Light thought to himself that if he told a half-hearted joke, they really would make the species go extinct. He smiled broadly, announcing that May had contacted him. The prey had been caught, and he wanted everyone to get ready. Iri sighed, disliking that May got to bait the prey, but agreed to prepare properly. Nazuna cheered, congratulating him and promising to work hard too. Light looked at his powerful comrades, telling them he was counting on them. They vibrated with excitement. Light took a deep breath, his expression hardening. He declared that after 3 years it was finally time for their revenge. The first one was up. The scene shifted to Akura, the major city of the wolves in the Beastmen Alliance. Garu walked through the streets, soaking in the praise of the citizens who called out to him as Big Bro Garu and asked for his stories. Garu smirked, reveling in his status as the most powerful candidate for the next chief of the wolf race. He demanded respect and praise in his mind. Later, in a luxurious room, he downed a glass of sake, savoring the taste. Surrounded by sycophants, he lounged on a sofa. His underlings poured him more drinks, telling him how popular he had become. They stroked his ego, calling him the star of the Beastmen orphanage, the one acknowledged by the wolf chief and the super-rich Garu-sama. Garu lectured them, claiming a beastman needed to use their head and senses to differentiate things by smell and achieve the best results. He hinted at the secret mission of the Gathering of Races 3 years ago. He bragged that he got a huge reward just for killing a brat, calling it a delicious job, though he feigned secrecy claiming it was a state secret. He scoffed, thinking it was easy money for killing a confused kid. They had concluded Light wouldn't survive the abyss after the teleportation trap, so everyone was rewarded even though they never found the body. Suddenly, Garu flinched. He wondered what this master rumor was that had every country active. His keen senses picked up the smell of death, warning him of danger. He swirled his drink, thinking he could rise to the top if he wanted to. For an orphan who knew nothing but violence, he had come far. He envisioned himself at the very top of the hierarchy. A voice interrupted his thoughts, excusing the intrusion. Mei stood in the doorway. Garu, drunk and arrogant, laughed and demanded the best sake, asking if she was a fan. He squinted at her, calling her a bitch for speaking casually, but then paused, realizing she was a pretty high-quality human woman. His danger sense is tingling, but apparently his libido is on a separate, louder frequency. Mei introduced herself as a maid who swore eternal loyalty to Light Sama. Garu choked on his drink, stammering the name Light. Mei politely asked him to kindly lead her to where Light Sama was last seen. Garu quickly deduced that she was looking for Light because they couldn't find him. He realized she had come to him, a former member of the party, for answers. He assumed she was an idiot for wanting to go to a death scene. He decided to play along, offering to compensate her properly, flashing a bag of money that could buy a mansion. Internally, he was suspicious. The whole country had investigated Light. He wondered if they missed something, if Light had noble blood, or if this woman was mistaking him for someone else. Greed and lust took over. He decided she was too good to pass up. He figured he could have some fun with her, and maybe the Dragonoot leader would owe him a favor for handling this loose end. He planned to have fun during this investigation, confident he had backup plans if it was a trap. He even considered selling her into slavery once he was done with her. He put on a friendly face, asking if she was telling the truth and agreeing to guide her to where Light was last seen. He lied smoothly, saying the abyss was dangerous and he couldn't let her go alone. He claimed Light was a really good friend of his, and this was a request from his people. He promised to gather his men and escort her safely, swearing on his name as the next chief. He drooled at the thought of escorting her, while Mei thanked him with a bow. Garu thought maliciously that he would mess this one up good, just like he did with Light. He was fired up to repeat his crime at the scene of the original betrayal. A 12-man party, accompanied by 10 beastmen, headed for the abyss. Thanks to the beastmen's scouting, they reached the depths without a single battle. They arrived at a cavern in the middle floor. Garu announced this was where Light was last seen. He spun his web of lies, claiming Light had bad luck and triggered a teleportation trap during an ambush, disappearing right in front of them while heavily injured. As he walked, he signaled his men. They blocked the only exit. He thought smugly that they could do whatever they wanted now. He smirked, thinking these inferiors were pushovers who couldn't react in time. But Mei began to speak, apologizing to Light that she couldn't protect him back then. She looked around the cave. disgusted to think that these rotten eggs had betrayed him in such a dirty, dark place. She lamented that if only she had been by his side earlier, he wouldn't have suffered such heavy wounds. Garu jumped back, alarmed. He wondered how this bitch knew the details of Light's wounds. Sweat poured down his face. He demanded to know what she was. Only the party members and the highest brass knew the truth. His men looked at him, confused by his sudden panic. He accused her of being a spy for another race, his composure cracking. May's aura flared, dark and menacing. She repeated that she had sworn her eternal loyalty to Light Sama. She threatened to find out the color of his insides for insulting the way of the maid. Garu flinched, feeling a terrifying pressure pinning him down right there and then. He tried to rationalize it. She was just a female, just prey. Yet the almighty Garu was shivering uncontrollably. A wave of overwhelming pressure slammed into the beastmen, making them gasp for air. The minions shook in terror, unable to move, realizing they were about to be killed. Suddenly, a voice commanded May to stop, saying it wasn't her turn yet. Light stepped forward from the shadows, flanked by his new, powerful comrades. He looked down at his former friend and declared that the order especially applied to Garu. Light smiled cheerfully and announced to Garu that he was there for his revenge after 3 years. Garu chuckled, realizing it was just a brat, and expressed his shock that Light was actually alive. He demanded to know how a human brat had sneaked up on them. The wolf burst into laughter, mocking Light as a level 15 fry, and asking if he seriously thought he could take revenge against him. He shouted that humans were really idiots. Garu calculated that if he brought the brat's corpse back, the Dragonutes would owe him one, and the wolves would rise to the top. He admitted he didn't know how Light survived, but marveled that he would show himself right in front of him. Light sighed, noting there was a lot to think about, like how he was alive or his relationship with May, but observed that Garu didn't think enough, as always. Garu conceded that the little miss over there had unreadable powers. However, he insisted that us beastmen wouldn't lose to an inferior because they had the numbers, boasting of 10 elites over level 130. He scoffed that Light was just lucky she lent him a hand, calling him an average human with a weird gift, and claimed they had checked every little detail about him. Light shrugged and admitted that Garu was technically right. Garu roared, calling him a weakling who couldn't even see the gap between their strengths. He called Light naive and stuck out his tongue, asking if he really thought he could get revenge just because that little miss might be able to go against them. Narrator note: sticking your tongue out is definitely the ultimate power move of a high-level warrior. Turning to his subordinates, Garu yelled at the idiots to go block the exit already and asked what they were standing there for. He commanded them not to let Light get away, promising they wanted some delicious memories and claiming the wolf beastmen would go to the top when they killed this brat. The subordinates stammered their understanding and acknowledged Big Bro Garu's orders to circle him. They dashed forward, thinking that with this, they would get closer to the side of the top, believing Lady Luck was finally there. They reached the destination. Suddenly, the wolves gasped in confusion as a giant wolf head dropped onto the ground in front of them. May stood firm, declaring she would not allow that. Light told May he would rely on her to seal the exit. May bowed, promising to perfectly finish her job with her name of the maid on the line. The remaining beastmen panicked, retreating and asking what she did, terrified because their heads just fell off without them seeing anything. Garu gritted his teeth, insisting they wouldn't lose to an inferior as long as they weren't reckless. He shouted that it was a fluke and told the idiots to calm down. Light's expression darkened as he told Garu not to screw with him. He asked if they had thought of the fact that they were just weak, sighing that they still looked down on people even after 3 years. The beastmen argued back, asking how they could lose to inferiors that can't raise their levels, mocking their physical weakness and little magic power compared to their ability to raise levels. Light stated plainly that in this world, your level determines your value. Garu bragged that there was no way Light was stronger than them, displaying his status as level 158 and claiming he was in another league compared to inferiors, ah yes, level 158. A truly impressive number, assuming your opponent isn't currently rewriting the laws of physics. Recited their own logic back to them, born with specialties and levels the source of weak humans. He mocked the idea that because he is human, there's no way he's better, and he won't lose because he's weaker. Garu sweated, wondering why the heads were rolling on the ground over there. He decided it must be some lame trick and yelled at Light not to get cocky. He howled, rallying everyone on his lid, shouting that they didn't have time for petty tricks. The entire pack lunged at Light with knives and claws, shouting "damn it." A series of dull bonk and oof sounds echoed as their weapons struck Light uselessly. The attackers recoiled, screaming in pain and coughing as their attacks bounced off him. Light looked at them with wide, innocent eyes and asked what was wrong. His expression shifted to pure menace as he asked, "Is that all?" leaving Garu paralyzed with fear. Sounds of splashing and coughing filled the air as Light lay battered in the water. Garu grabbed him by the collar, screaming that he was just an inferior. Light wobbled unsteadily on his feet. Garu roared, demanding that Light not look down on him. He swung his claw with a whoosh, shouting not to think it would be that easy. Light simply looked at him unfazed. Garu declared he would let him feel despair. He crushed something in his hand with a bang and shouted, "Come." A light shone brightly as he revealed Fenrir, explaining it was a magic item, a monster ball with a high-level monster inside. He explained that it moved exactly as he said, allowing him to summon high-level monsters when he broke it. He grumbled that it would disappear in about an hour, and cursed that he had to use something so damn expensive on him. A massive wolf emerged with a deafening roar. Garu laughed maniacally, introducing his trump card, a level 500 Fenrir. His subordinates watched in awe, praising Garu-sama for having such a beautiful and strong monster. Garu told Light he would make him regret not killing him just now. Light sighed and asked if that was really his trump card. Garu laughed, asking if Light was so scared he lost his mind, as Light commented that it was way too weak. Garu insisted it was a level 500 that would blow away anything thrown at it. He realized Light's previous defense must have been a magic item. He taunted Light, telling him to come on and beg for his life just like 3 years ago. Light sighed and said okay. He told Garu to stick his head to the ground, and if he could make Light laugh, he might change his mind and not kill him. Light spread his arms and declared he wouldn't move even a bit from there, telling Garu to do what he wanted with his boring trump card. Garu snapped, screaming that he would turn Light into ashes just like he wanted. He ordered Fenrir to do it. The wolf unleashed a massive monster breath cannon. The subordinates panicked, noting it was the focused magic power of a level 500 and definitely a one-hit kill for an inferior brat. Light swiped the attack away with his hand like it was nothing, asking that's all. He remarked how annoying it was that Beastmen really exaggerated everything. Garu stared in disbelief, sweating profusely as he realized there was no damage. He realized the only explanation was a huge gap in level and power. Light announced it was his turn now. Garu panicked, unable to comprehend that Light's power was far higher than an all-out attack from a level 500. Light declared he would show him the real one, stating that calling that big dog over there a Fenrir disrespected the name. He held up a card, SUR level 9000 Monster Founder Fenrir. He called it the real deal. The card glowed brilliantly as he released the summon. A magnificent glowing white wolf appeared behind Light. Light coldly ordered Founder Fenrir to kill that dog over there. The wolf blew a freezing breath. With a loud clack, the fake Fenrir was instantly frozen in a block of ice. The ice shattered, destroying the monster completely. The dust settled, leaving only the majestic Founder Fenrir standing tall. Light smiled and praised the terrifying beast, calling it a good boy and telling it great job. Garu fell back onto the ground, trembling in terror. Light remarked that he could have killed that thing in a second even without the summon. Garu stammered, asking how he had something like a level 9000. Garu looked at Light, trembling uncontrollably as the realization hit him. He realized that the light before him was level 9999 after all. Light's status board flashed the number 9999. Garu screamed in incoherent terror as the realization of the impossible number hit him. Light cheerfully added that May was the same as him, displaying her matching 9999 level. The beastman stammered that there was no way, noting that a human's average level was usually around 100. Garu realized Light was the real deal and wasn't messing with the status boards. He reasoned that his level 500 monster couldn't do anything against him, which proved the gap in power. Garu gasped, noting that a human brat should have grown more in 3 years. He stuttered, asking if it was really Light, shocked that he hadn't changed physically at all. Light closed his eyes and explained that he used a wristband of immortality from his gacha to stop his growth. He confirmed that his face and height hadn't changed a bit. He opened his eyes, revealing a cold intensity, and stated he did it because he wanted to remember those feelings: rage, sorrow, and despair. Garu recoiled, thinking this guy wasn't the Light he knew, but something like a monster from another dimension. Terrified of being killed, Garu slammed his head into the ground in a perfect doja. He screamed that he was terribly sorry for all his rude behaviors until now. Sweating profusely, Garu shouted that it wasn't his own will but an order from the country, begging for forgiveness. His subordinates yelled in confusion, reminding him that he had called this a delicious deal. Garu snapped at them to shut up, telling Light he could do whatever he wanted with these guys. Garu continued to sell them out, claiming they scared away the employer and ate the skewered meat together, desperate to prove he wasn't the only guilty one. Light looked down at him with cold eyes. Garu flinched, stammering that since he confessed, it should be all right to let him go. The subordinates screamed, calling him a coward and pleading with Light. Light silenced him, demanding he first tell him what this master was all about before discussing letting him go. Garu stammered that he didn't know, claiming he was only told to find the master by the upper brass. He insisted he didn't know why the country wanted to kill Light or why they were looking for the master. He explained that beastmen don't have as many skills as other races, so the country didn't tell them anything. He claimed they only had superior abilities to raise levels faster, so even chiefs wouldn't know deep secrets. Light hummed thoughtfully and asked about the others. The subordinates frantically chimed in, claiming they heard some stuff and knew something too, hoping to trade information for their lives. Suddenly, the heads of every subordinate flew off their bodies in a spray of blood. Light stood calmly amidst the carnage. He stated that from what he saw, they were trying to trick him and had no intention of letting him live either. He declared that having no info deserved 1,000 deaths. Light turned back to the trembling Garu, saying he wanted to ask one more thing before they moved. Garu shook with fear. Light asked if they fought against all the countries on the surface right now, could us right now win? Garu sweated, admitting that while Light Sama was indeed powerful, they would only have the advantage for a while. He argued it would be almost impossible to win against all of them, reasoning that however high Light's level was, he was still just an individual after all. Garu estimated that at most, half or one-third of the world could be destroyed. He pointed out that countries possess thousands of years of history and legendary-grade weapons and armor. Light listened, shivering slightly with a smile, saying, "I see." He smiled broadly, declaring it was just as he thought. Light said they should get going and told Garu to answer that question again when they were there. Garu was confused, reiterating that they had limits no matter how strong they were. Light held up a card and activated teleports. A magic circle enveloped them, and they vanished from the wasteland. They reappeared in a massive, paved hall with a whoosh. Garu stumbled, looking around in confusion, asking where they were. His eyes bulged out of his head as he saw what was in front of him. Before them stood an endless army of soldiers and beasts, lining a path toward a throne. Garu stammered, unable to comprehend the scale of the place. Light walked confidently forward, his boot clicking against the stone floor. He walked past the kneeling guards and monsters, heading straight for the throne at the top of the stairs. Light ascended the stairs and sat upon the throne. From his high vantage point, he looked down at his vast army. Light ordered everyone to raise their heads and display their status boards. A sea of status boards appeared, filling the air with numbers like level 5,000, 6,000, 1,500, and 9999. The numbers continued, showing levels of 8,500, 3,000, and 20,000. Light noted that this was all from just 3 years. Light revealed his total power raised was over 110 million. He leaned forward on his throne, smiling confidently, and asked Garu again, "Can we win with this army against all the people on the surface?" Garu screamed in pure terror, unable to form words, his mind broken by the sheer scale of power. He realized this was destruction itself. He sat on the floor, wailing that this guy was destruction itself. Light smiled, saying he was now confident with that reaction. He stated that they made this monster because they decided to kill him. He told Garu he would show him more despair and suffering as a reward, letting him have some fun without dying before the other races were gone. Garu thought that destroying the world was just like destroying wooden block toys for Light. He realized Light had the power to destroy everything as he liked. Garu wondered if Light was a god or something else to lead an army enough to destroy the world. Light mused that for the world's greater good, after achieving his goals, he wanted to use his gift. He liked the sound of being a god. He decided he would base his choice on what the truth was and what he should give the world with his gift. He pondered if it would be for the greater good or for evil, depending on the truth the world hides, why they wanted to kill him, and what the master is. Holding up his cards, he wondered which he should become, a gift holder that bestows wealth and happiness, or one that curses with death and despair, except for humans, of course. Light spread his arms, declaring that the 3 years he spent underground were over. He announced it was time to come up from the abyss, from dark to the light. With his party behind him, he ordered them to advance, to seek the truth and revenge. A few days after the revenge against Garu, the group prepared to set off for their next plan. Light knelt before 2 simple wooden crosses, visiting the graves made for his dad and mom. He referred to it as his former village, a label necessitated by the fact that someone had completely destroyed it. Light explained that teleport was unusable outside the abyss, and since it was deeper than expected, returning to the surface had been difficult. He noted that they came to the village immediately after finally dissolving the restrictions and escaping the abyss. He realized that while he was stuck down there for 2.5 years, the village had been reduced to nothing but rubble and silence. Light screamed into the void, asking why something like this had to happen. He used everyone's power to investigate, but the strong wind had wiped away all traces, leaving the culprit a mystery. He searched the whole village but found no trace of his brother or Yume, which was the only fortunate thing. This meant there was a faint hope they were still out there, so he dispatched spies to find the culprit. He finished greeting his parents and decided to depart immediately to find an inn before sunset. Gold complained, saying he didn't want to camp outside on their very first day of traveling. Nemomu scolded him for his attitude while Light Sama was grieving, demanding he speak with respect. Light sighed, telling Nemomu that formalities were awkward, and reminding her that she wouldn't want to camp outside either. Nemomu declared she would sleep in trash for him, telling Gold not to lump her in with the likes of him. Gold retorted that a true golden knight would willingly stay in blizzard storms or blazing magma for his lord. However, he quickly pivoted, arguing that for Light's comfortable sleep, they should definitely avoid camping, proving that even legendary knights are terrified of sleeping on hard ground. Nemomu panicked, warning Gold that pushing their lord too much might make Light dislike him. She suddenly burst into tears, wailing that there was no way Light Sama would hate them. Gold sighed at her drama while Nemomu vowed that even if she became a spirit, her duty would never change. Gold noted their lord was too nice. Light laughed, assuring them he was fine and asking Gold to stop teasing her. Light introduced his guards, level 5,000 Assassin Nemomu and level 5,000 Golden Knight Gold. Gold announced the start of their journey, Light admitted his heart was racing and agreed to avoid camping. Nemumu warned Gold not to mess up. Gold agreed, noting they needed information after all. Light stated they would initiate the adventurer plan, while Eri prepared the revenge against Sasha. Nemumu noted their power was sufficient, but agreed they shouldn't be stupid enough to start a war against the world blindly. Light warned there might be other odd gift holders like him out there. He cautioned that ignorance could lead to defeat. Nemumu insisted no one could match him. Light insisted on caution, especially regarding the mysterious master whose identity remained unknown. He emphasized that gathering information was crucial for their revenge and finding the master. Light doubted his village's destruction was random, suspecting a connection to the master. He theorized they destroyed the village and tried to kill his parents just in case. They might one day threaten them. He vowed that if the world's truth was evil, he would turn it all into hellfire and burn it down. Trembling, he promised his parents he would reveal the truth and get revenge. Light placed a clown's mask on his face with a clack and said, "Now let's go." Gold told him to suppress his killing intent so he wouldn't stop the hearts of normal citizens. Light remarked on finally walking on the surface. Gold teased Nemumu for shaking. Nemumu denied being scared, and they declared their journey as adventurers had begun. Nemumu asked if they were heading to the city in the Dwarf Kingdom right now. Light confirmed, explaining it prospered because a dungeon was discovered there. Light reminded them that when they are there, his name isn't Light, but Kuro. He declared that from now on, he is Kuro, the adventurer trying to raise his rank and reputation. He explained he chose Dagas because it was far from where the gathering of races used to move around. He noted that if they got wind of this, his revenge would fail, so he'd rather find out more about the master while undercover. He reasoned that higher ranks give better information, so they would raise their ranks until Eri's revenge plan against Sasha was completed. They arrived at the foot of the mountain where the city and dungeon were located. Gold complained that walking through the forest path was annoying because he would definitely stand out in the city. Gold's priority is clearly being a shiny disco ball rather than stealth. Just as they were about to exit the forest, Nemumu spotted something. Light sighed, noting they looked like dwarf bandits and definitely not a friendly party. The bandits demanded they hand over everything. The bandits yelled at the golden guy to come out, noticing his flashy armor. Gold stepped out, laughing that he stood out too much and would shine forever. The bandits licked their lips, calling it their lucky day and noting he had a good woman for a human. Light noticed a carriage with a parent and child being attacked. He told Gold to handle this side while he went for the victims. Gold invited the bandits to try and steal his armor, though Light reminded him not to kill them. A bandit swung a steel hammer at Gold's helmet, but it shattered upon impact with a loud smash. The bandit stared in horror at his broken weapon. Gold flicked the bandit with a single finger, sending him flying with a slam. Gold declared he would teach them the spirit of a knight, calling them bugs attracted to his armor. On the other side, Light told the bandits he would let them go if they stood down. The bandits laughed, boasting they were over level 200 and calling him an inferior bastard. Light sighed. Nemumu acknowledged Light's order and unleashed a slash. She moved faster than they could see, striking them down without killing them. The bandits collapsed. Light told the victims they were lucky. The rescued man and child approached, asking who they were, amazed by their strength. The man offered to do anything for them since they saved their lives, apologizing for the carriage situation. The child marveled that Kuro-sama was much stronger than the dwarves. The man realized they must be adventurers heading for the dungeon. The man asked if they were famous adventurers. Light corrected him, saying they were just planning to register as adventurers. The man advised them to go for dungeons if they wanted to rank up faster. He confirmed the dungeon there was well known among people. He explained Dagas was a prospered town near the Elf Kingdom, which sometimes caused conflicts. He added that it might be perfect for them to rank up since even a lot of humans visit the place. The man admitted he had lived there a long time, but had never seen humans as strong as them. They arrived at Dagas, the southernmost town of the Dwarf Kingdom. The man thanked them again and asked if they were okay with just being dropped at the entrance. He then revealed that he actually ran an inn mainly for humans. Light accepted the offer, saying they would visit if they were looking for an inn. They said bye-bye to the kid. Light noted the man looked capable and it was a good encounter to start with. Walking into the city, Light observed the many weapon and armor stores, noting dwarves were known for smithing. Nemumu scolded Gold for looking around so much that he'd get lost. Gold argued he had an unnecessary landmark right next to him. They finally stood before the Dagas Guild. Light declared this is it. The group arrived at the Adventurers Guild, noting it was much livelier than the streets outside. Nemumu slammed her hands on the counter, screaming impossible, when the receptionist treated them like normal beginners. The receptionist explained everyone starts as F rank. Nemumu shouted that F rank was absurd for Kuro-sama. She demanded he be made an SSS rank immediately, refusing to be bound by logic. Nothing says we are humble beginners like screaming at the receptionist to make you a god instantly. Light dragged the fuming Nemumu away while Gold laughed at her lack of composure. Light apologized to the terrified receptionist for his followers' rude behavior. Outside, Gold teased Nemumu for losing her cool, while she groveled on the ground apologizing to Light. It was getting dark, so they decided to find an inn. They found Colonel's Inn, which looked decent enough. The innkeeper welcomed the unusual party of a masked boy, a maid, and a giant golden knight. Light said he had 3 selfish requests while staying there. He requested the entire highest floor for a month, with absolutely no staff allowed up there. He handed over a heavy sack containing 300 gold coins. Light smiled and told the stunned owner to think of the overpayment as a gift. The owner bowed, promising to do his best, because dropping a literal sack of gold on the counter is definitely the best way to keep a low profile. In the room, Light activated magic nullification and anti-eavesdropping spells, so they could talk freely. He reassured them the money was real, provided by comrades acting as merchants, not counterfeit created by his gacha. He explained he didn't want to crash the world's economic balance by printing infinite money. Nemumu asked why he came himself instead of sending minions from the abyss, worrying about the non-zero risk. She stuttered, asking if he was trying to rob her of her revenge. A terrifying dark aura leaked out of her as she asked if Nemumu was getting in his way. She instantly snapped out of it and apologized profusely for overstepping boundaries. Gold laughed, explaining that as a man, Light sometimes needed to achieve things with his own hands, even if dangerous. Light praised Gold's understanding. Nemumu apologized for getting emotional and scaring him. She begged to be allowed to display her loyalty once again to make up for it. Light awkwardly excused himself to sit down. She kissed his toe, a ritual known as loyal slave. Light blushed, admitting he found it embarrassing, but everyone in the abyss insisted on doing it. Gold watched and casually asked if it was some kind of foreplay. Nemumu exploded, screaming at him not to call her loyalty to a boy 3 years younger than her getting in heat. Gold is asking the real questions here, though perhaps not the most appropriate ones. Light stopped the bickering, announcing they would enter the dungeon tomorrow. He noted they would prioritize that while waiting for Erie's preparations. The next day, they saw the long line for the dungeon entrance and the shops catering to adventurers. They joined the queue. Light observed the mix of races, noting elves were rare because they hated dwarves. Light wore a hood to hide his identity, though the group still stood out. They adopted a formation, Gold in front, Nemumu in back, and Light in the middle. Nemumu suggested it to ensure nothing happened to Light. Light noted the precaution involved the back of his head pressing against her soft chest, but decided to go along with it. A classic tactical formation known as the protagonist sandwich. Suddenly, a group cut the line in front of them. It was 3 hooded figures. Light analyzed them, a small leader, a baggage carrier, and a well-trained guard. The victims were a young party who didn't know what to do. Seeing the victims were his age, Light decided he had no choice but to act. Light tapped the line cutter on the shoulder, cheerfully saying, "Let's not jump in lines now, you people with hoods on." Light stared at the hooded figure and asked coldly if he had just given him an order. The hooded man asked if Light knew who he was talking to. Light shot back that he didn't think there was anyone else cutting in line. Light mocked him, saying that if he was famous, it was shameful to cut in line. He asked, "How am I supposed to know when you're under that hood?" Light leaned in and whispered, "Don't tell me you're drunk at daytime." Gold burst into laughter behind him. The man raged, but Light cut him off, lecturing him that he was troubling people who followed the rules. He called him stupid and told him to line up at the back. The crowd rallied behind Light, shouting that the boy was right and urging the line cutter to move. The hooded man sighed, calling the crowd bugs for obeying rules and stating they were just there for him to step on. He reached for his weapon, threatening to go that far. Gold stepped forward with a heavy stomp looming over the man. Terrified, the man stammered an apology to his own follower and ran away. The crowd cheered for Light. Gold laughed as the crowd praised Light for saying what everyone was thinking. The young party Light had saved approached him shyly. They thanked him profusely, explaining they didn't know what to do against someone with such high pride. The young leader thanked goodness for people like Light, adding that his mask was cool too. One of the members stared at Gold and asked the forbidden question, "Is that armor real gold?" Nemumu immediately answered, "It's fake." She claimed he just wore it to stand out. Gold laughed it off. She explained that bandits always attacked them thinking it was real gold, so they were used to it. The young leader apologized for his cocky friend, calling the armor his obligatory interest. Gold folded his arms, explaining it was a gold alloy mixed with rare materials for high durability. He insisted it was the best way to get people to remember them as a party, because nothing says stealthy adventurers like a walking lighthouse. The young leader looked at them curiously and asked if it was their first time in this dungeon. He noted they brought no camping equipment at all, recommending they bring some next time. He explained that unlike other dungeons, the area gets bigger the lower you go, so people usually camp inside. Light realized they were the only ones standing there, with barely anything while everyone else had heavy packs. Light thanked him for the info. The guild staff called for the next party. As the young party left, Light muttered that they were so used to item boxes they forgot to bring fake luggage. Nemumu worried that item boxes were rare, and it would be odd if all three of them had one. Light decided they would think about it inside the dungeon. Light admitted he was excited since this was his first time in a dungeon other than the Abyss. He thought he knew what dungeons were, but looking at the variety in this world, he had to reconsider. He mentioned the dungeon core, the heart of the dungeon, as the key to the mystery. He noted that even Eerie, their level 99 forbidden mage, didn't understand what a dungeon core actually was. He recalled the world's creation myth hints at their origin, but no one really knows. The myth stated the world was first covered by a black vortex. When the goddess shone her light, she created lands and 9 races. The evil god loved the goddess, but was stuck beneath the land when the vortex divided. He used the hole's dungeons to release his monsters, trying to reach her with his own hands. The 9 races fought the monsters to protect the goddess. And that battle continued even until now. The myth explained monsters were stronger underground, and at night because they were closer to the evil god. Some said dungeon cores were fragments of the evil god's life. Eerie had said cores absorb energy from stars and magic to create dungeons, though she didn't know how. They create monster spawners, minerals, environments, and treasures. Basically, the evil god is just a very generous game developer. They reached the end of the long stairway. Light looked out into the light, ready to see the dungeon made by the core. They noted their plans were disrupted because they entered the dungeon late, almost at evening. Kaido raged about the bugs wasting his time, cursing repeatedly as they walked through the first floor. He kicked at the air, screaming "damn it" over and over like a toddler denied a toy. He recalled the humiliation of being told not to jump in line, furious that mere bugs spoke to him like that. He monologued that he was a genius, the youngest recruit, and one of the strongest white knights in the Elf Kingdom. He revealed he inherited the blood of the legendary hero, the Master, making him Kaido-sama. Because clearly, having famous ancestors justifies being a jerk. His companion, Yanaku, tried to calm him, but Kaido decided to ignore the trash orcs on the first floor to advance faster. Kaido panicked, worrying he had already reached his growth limit at level 1500. A status screen showed Kaido at level 1500 and Yanaku at level 200. Yanaku reassured him that level 1500 was already far beyond an elf's average limit. Kaido screamed that he wouldn't be satisfied with just that, citing his legendary lineage. He vowed to level up so he could crush those who made a fool of him and receive the goddess's blessing. Yanaku, a dark elf, agreed to help so he could continue his own research after being chased out of his village. Kaido dismissed the research talk, ordering him to just help reach the third floor. Internally, Kaido thought, "Why am I working with this disgusting dark elf?" Yanaku, unaware of the hate, convinced himself this was a trial bestowed by the goddess. Kaido promised himself that once he became a hero, he would kill all the bastards back home and the bugs in the dungeon. Elsewhere, Light's party stood amidst defeated monsters in the third-floor swamp. They decided to collect materials from the trolls and golems, even if they were low-level trash to them. Nemomu confirmed they had enough proof-of-passage items for the guild, noting Light's gacha provided plenty of cards anyway. Nemomu insisted they return to the surface immediately so she could wash Light's body. Gold declared that no matter how dirty he got, his golden armor would continue to shine. Nemomu ignored him completely. They noted that with Light's power, exploring the dungeon took almost no time as they returned to the first floor playing field. Nemomu used clairvoyance to find the exit, but admitted she enjoyed the scenery because she was with her lord. Light marveled that the sunset underground was beautiful, despite being artificial. Nemomu declared she loved it solely because it was a dungeon controlled by Kuro-sama. Nearby, the young party from the morning was fighting goblins, shouting "Don't get cocky." Light recognized them, noting it was a low-level battle not worth his time. He analyzed their formation, 3 vanguard fighters and a girl mage support in the back. He critiqued that they were too focused on what was in front of them. The kids cheered, moving to loot the magic stones. Suddenly, the girl screamed as something attacked from the grass. It was a bush snake. Light stepped in, implied, lecturing them to pay attention to their rear. He explained that while not fatal, the paralysis poison would have crumbled their formation. The leader thanked Kuro-sama, but Light cut him off, warning that more enemies were inbound. A pack of great bush wolves burst from the trees. The young party panicked, realizing they couldn't deal with them, and shouted to retreat. Light realized the wolves weren't attacking, they were running away from something else. Irio froze, sensing a massive presence approaching. No freaking way is that. A Forsyth mantis appeared, a rare monster that supposedly only shows up once every 30 years. Irio panicked, screaming that it was a level 1500 monster that should have been subjugated 10 years ago, and they needed to report it. He ordered a retreat, telling Mia to distract the monster with everything she had while the rest escaped. The mantis screeched menacingly. Mia realized her chance wouldn't be fast enough and screamed in terror as the monster approached. Light calmly stepped in, asking if he was free to kill it since they were planning on running away. Irio stared in disbelief, asking if he actually planned to fight it. Light remarked it was a great chance to raise their ranks since it was level 500. Irio shouted that even the guild had to go all out to defeat it. Light ignored him, telling Gold and Nemomu to go hunt themselves a mantis. Nemomu complained it wasn't fair, but Gold stepped forward to be its opponent, eager to show the terror of a Forsyth mantis to the newbies. Gold blocked the mantis's attack effortlessly. Nemumu offered a weapon, noting the monster had good blades. Light decided to test his magic first, releasing a fire arrow. The spell hit the mantis directly. The smoke cleared, Nemumu noted it deflected the spell. Light admitted it wouldn't work easily. Irio explained the mantis had high magic resistance and extremely sharp blades, making it a well-rounded threat. Irio yelled at the frozen Mia to support the knight before he got killed. Mia was too shocked to move, screaming that the boy cast a fire arrow without chanting anything. She couldn't believe someone her age could perform a feat usually reserved for veterans. Gold laughed, telling the kids to just sit back and enjoy the show. He began lecturing them, noting they focused too much on simply defending with the shield and attacking with the sword. He explained a shield isn't just for defense. Gold deflected an attack with a counter, telling them to match the timing. He explained a shield is a weapon that can destroy the enemy's gear, advising them to use their heads to find weaknesses. He told them to create openings and attack with surprise, calling battles a test of intelligence. Light announced it was his turn and cast Fire Arrow again. He asked how it would fare against 30 arrows this time. Mia watched in horror as he controlled all 30 arrows perfectly. Light commanded the arrows to gather and burn, stating they wouldn't disappear until they hit. Mia looked like she had snapped. Light called the mantis naive for thinking one blade could block 30 arrows. Light decided it was time to end it. The mantis, surprisingly smart, decided to run away. Light instantly cast Firewall. Mia screamed, realizing he used a tactic-grade spell without chanting. She realized she was witnessing history, as only a few limited elves could cast that. Light declared it couldn't escape. The mantis tried to fly. Light called for Nemumu. Nemumu intercepted it, telling it to be grateful to die on Kuro-sama's stage. The mantis was sliced to pieces midair. Nemumu scolded Gold for making weird noises, telling him not to get jealous. Light panicked, realizing that since they cut the valuable shell and blades into pieces, they couldn't sell it anymore. Nemumu apologized, admitting she and Gold destroyed the blades. The young party stared in awe, wondering who on earth these people were. Irio and his party were stunned, asking who these people were for killing a Forsyth mantis in a single second. They asked if Light's group were A-rank or famous adventurers. Irio guessed S-rank, but Light corrected him, stating they were currently F-ranks who just registered yesterday. Nemumu complained about the mess the Miss Someone Mia made, asking if they should collect the magic stones yet. Light offered to help collect the goblin stones but decided to clean up first, Mia casting Water Ball. Irio invited the knight to wash his hands and to thank Light for saving their lives. Light was shocked that the young party used precious mana just to create water for hand washing in a dungeon. Because nothing says, I have infinite mana, like using a tactical spell to rinse off some bug juice. Light felt their sincerity as adventurers for using mana just to let them be clean. Mia thanked Light for saving her from the bush snake earlier. She stuttered much and bit her tongue in her nervousness. Irio noted she bit her tongue. Mia made a cute howl sound. Irio warned that night was approaching and invited Light's party to their nearby camp to avoid monsters. He insisted they wanted to repay Light for his help earlier. Light accepted. Irio whispered that his sister wanted to ask Light about magic. They gathered around a pot at the campsite, ready to eat. Irio assumed both of Light's parents must be mages for him to be so talented. He concluded that was why Light was so talented. Light humbly denied it. Irio admitted he didn't understand magic, but Mia explained she couldn't even use tactic-grade spells. She insisted it wasn't just a mere difference. Mia explained there are 3 classes: combat, tactic, and strategy. She detailed that tactic grade, like Firewall, usually requires multiple mages to resonate. Strategy grade spells like Meteor or Tsunami require tons of mages and can affect the world. She explained that being able to use tactic-grade magic is proof of being first class, a wall humans typically cannot climb. She emphasized that Kuro-san did it without chanting, calling it legendary. She declared they were witnessing a legend carved into history, as no human could normally do that. Light laughed it off, saying she was flattering him. Mia thanked him, Nemomu saying she had good eyes to understand Kuro-sama's power. Gold told Nemomu to stop sticking her thin breasts out and eat properly, criticizing her table manners. Nemomu raged, asking who he was calling thin breasts. Gold clarified he was obviously talking to her. Light interrupted, and Irio saying now he knew how amazing Kuro-san was, and that Mia was also truly talented. Mia mentioned the Nine Principality, a joint nation supported by all 9 races. Gold noted that getting a recommendation from their magic school meant she was very good. Irio revealed they gave up on school because their parents died from a plague, and they had no income. He explained they became adventurers to earn money so Mia could enter the school. Mia said she was happy just being with everyone. Irio agreed it was theirs. Mia asked Light not to do anything reckless. Light agreed with a soft Light told Mia she would reach her goal eventually. He insisted it wasn't flattery and that he actually thought she was talented. He claimed he didn't have specialties and couldn't use magic, which is why it was rare for a human. He explained he was a special mage, who used cards to bypass chanting to hide his identity. He told Mia she had actual potential, unlike him who relied on items. Irio asked why Light decided to become an adventurer. Light spun a lie that his parents died in a fire, and he received a heavy burn on his face. Nemomu and Gold played along, stating they served him because they were under his parents' care. Light claimed he traveled with the mask to look for a healing potion, though it wasn't his priority. Irio asked permission to ask one more question. He asked if Gold and Nemomu were lovers. Nemomu called it straight-up impossible. Gold retorted that he preferred a mature woman who matched the color gold, not a flat chest. Nemomu raged, screaming I am average, while Light apologized for the noise and also said that she belonged to Light. The scene shifted to a darker view of the dungeon. On the 3rd floor, Kaito and Yanaku stood over a defeated troll. Yanaku revealed he didn't steal the national treasure just to team up, but to hunt materials. He stated they were gathering materials to break the limits of races, and their next target was a human for experiments. The scene opened at the city gate, crowded with adventurers even in the morning. People whispered about the party rumored to have defeated the Forsyth Mantis 2 weeks ago. Light, wearing his dark clown mask, walked through the crowd. Irio called out to Kuro-san, excited that they finally stood out enough to be recognized. Irio explained they hadn't met for 2 weeks because the dungeon was huge, so bumping into each other was nearly impossible. Irio pushed Mia forward. Mia shyly said she could finally give him their gift of appreciation. She stammered, handing over a small item. Mia explained it was burn medicine taught to her by her late grandmother. She added that it couldn't make scars disappear but would ease the pain, worrying it wasn't much. Irio revealed Mia had been thinking about a gift to thank him for a long time. Light decided to give something in return. He pulled out an SSR praying bracelet, an item that causes a small miracle when wished upon strongly. He noted its effects were a mystery, but it looked plain enough to be worn normally. Light told her he was happy because she cared about him, not because of the medicine's value. He insisted she take it. The party cheered, noting the bracelet matched her red outfit. Mia beamed, vowing to take care of it for the rest of her life, while Nemomu muttered, so jealous. Nemomu asked if it was okay to give such a rare item for low-grade medicine. Light replied he wasn't ashamed, as he was happy simply because she cared. Light praised Mia for being a good girl. Light bid them farewell and headed to the 5th floor snow field to return to the abyss. He cast a teleport. He explained the vast 5th floor was perfect for teleporting without being seen. He arrived at his throne room, welcomed by his servants, including Eri and Ayuoki Nazuna. Light smiled, happy he could now freely travel between the surface and the abyss. Over tea, he reported that the adventure plan was going smoothly, and he met nice people. He reflected on how happy he was to feel kindness from others again. Eri reported that the preparations for the revenge against Sasha would be ready in 10 days. Light praised her. Eri blushed, saying his words were wasted on her. She declared his wish was her command. Flashback, Light recalled telling Mia he was happy simply because she cared. He recalled insisting she take the bracelet with gratitude. Light introduced Nazuna as the strongest in close-quarter combat and a mood maker. He noted she wasn't good for complicated jobs because she didn't think before acting. Light asked Nazuna to protect the abyss while he was away. She agreed energetically. Nazuna called Eri midget. Eri snapped back, telling her she also had a part in the next plan. Light sipped his tea, wondering how Sasha would look when she fell into despair. Gilbert and Subalan were stuck on the night shift in the Daga's dungeon swamp, counting down the last hour until they could finally switch. Subalan noted how rare it was to see no fog or monsters around the swamp, though Gilbert warned him not to let his guard down. They passed the time gossiping about the Dark Clown Mask Party, mentioning a teenager, a golden knight, and a fairy princess. Gilbert was skeptical, finding it impossible that the party reached the 5th floor within days. Subalan insisted it was true, sharing rumors that they defeated a Forsyth mantis with chantless magic. Gilbert laughed off the idea of a human mage girl, calling it a fairy tale. However, Subalan argued that the rumors of subjugating the mantis didn't sound baseless anymore. Subalan wondered if the hero was a reincarnation of a legend. Gilbert stopped joking, hoping this hero could finally save their race from the cruel discrimination they faced. The mood lightened as they admired the clear starry sky, a rare sight in the swamp. Gilbert decided to take a bathroom break, complaining about the cold. Subalan told him to shut up and make sure to dig a hole so he didn't have to smell it. Gilbert walked off into the woods, leaving Subalan alone by the fire. Gilbert ran into an arrogant elf and was instantly beheaded simply because a mere bug made him wait. Apparently, taking a bathroom break is a capital offense in this dungeon. The elf stood over the body, telling himself he needed to calm down. Back at the camp, Subalan realized something was wrong. There were no battle sounds, yet Gilbert wasn't back. The elf emerged, angry that an inferior dared to ignore him while he was speaking. Subalan froze, realizing he couldn't win against an elf mage alone. He decided to run and report the crime to the guild, even if they didn't treat humans well. The elf mocked him for lacking emotion while he stepped on Gilbert's severed head. Subalan shouted that he would survive and tell the guild everything. The elf couldn't believe Subalan was running away, calling him spineless. Subalan deployed a smokescreen to blind the mage, confident that blocking his vision would secure his escape. Knowing the map by heart, Subalan ran through the smoke, vowing to avenge his friend. Suddenly, a massive impact struck him, shattering the ground. Subalan was crushed. In his final moments, he realized with horror that the attack felt physical, not magical. Kaito laughed, calling their struggle futile against his weak attributes. A man Yanarku arrived, annoyed that the elf had killed the adventurers instead of capturing them as guinea pigs. He shrugged it off, claiming that experiments are based on failures anyway. The elf admitted that their futile struggles just made him want to kill them more. He adjusted his monocle, saying he understood the feeling of letting bugs crawl all over you. He decided he would have to teach them a lesson with experiments later, so he allowed the elf to kill them for now. They viewed the adventurers as trash who should feel honored to become lab rats. He grinned, noting that they could find as many replacements as they wanted inside the dungeon. Meanwhile, Mia was caught grinning at her bracelet, and her party immediately started teasing her. They teased that she might meet Kuro again on the 2nd floor if she was lucky. Irio stammered that he had no problem if it was Kuro, and her party member encouraged her to go out with him. Mia shouted that she wouldn't give them water anymore, claiming she only admires him as a mage. Kuro and his party stand at the counter, receiving endless thanks from the staff. The receptionist is overwhelmed by the massive haul of Yeti magic stones they brought from the fifth floor. Nemomu remarks on how the staff's attitude has completely flipped compared to when they were accused of fraud. The receptionist apologizes frantically for calling them inferiors during their previous visit. She bows her head, terrified she will lose her job if her superiors find out she yelled at such productive adventurers. To make amends, she announces that the party is skipping a grade, promoting them from F rank directly to D rank. She explains that water stones are extremely rare and in high demand for freezing equipment and research. She admits they were only suspected because bringing such a huge amount on the first day seemed impossible. Nemomu is not satisfied and demands Kuro be promoted immediately to the highest rank available. The receptionist nervously explains that C rank is reserved for veteran adventurers, and Kuro's time is too short. However, she admits that if he can make one more major achievement, they might bypass the 3-year wait time. The conversation halts as she mentions a difficult quest is about to be announced. The guild master slams a poster down, declaring an emergency quest for all adventurers. He reveals that mysterious murders are occurring inside Daga's dungeon. The guild realizes the targets aren't monsters, but adventurers. The master yells that adventurers are the guild's treasures, and he will not overlook these crimes. Look at that passion, he loves you like a father loves his ATM. Wanted posters fly everywhere as a bounty is placed on the adventurer killer to protect the dungeon. They have no information on the killer's identity, but the guild will pay for any leads. Kuro looks at the poster and realizes this is the perfect chance for his promotion. The party leaves the guild, admitting that although the situation is grim, the timing is lucky for them. They agree to focus on their rank-up goal despite the fact that a human is hunting adventurers. Kuro vows to stop the killer, and Nemomu asks if his gift can help track the culprit. Kuro explains that his unlimited gacha produces random cards, so he can't guarantee a tracking ability. He suggests using flight cards to infiltrate the dungeon and find the killer from above. As they decide to return to the abyss, a portal suddenly tears open in the sky. Nemomu shouts a warning as a figure falls from the rift. Kuro rushes forward and catches the bloody figure in his arms. Kuro looks down in shock, realizing the battered girl is Mia-chan. The party surrounds her, looking at her severe injuries with deep concern. Kuro catches the collapsing Mia-chan, who struggles to whisper him, while covered in injuries. He realizes the SSR bracelet he gave her is broken, having activated a small miracle to transport her to him. A flashback reveals the party hearing about an adventurer murderer on the first floor of Daga's dungeon. A passing adventurer warns them to leave immediately because the culprit is active on the second floor. The party agrees to retreat and warn anyone else they see, regardless of race. Mia is terrified, suspecting the killer is an elite mage they can't match. The leader decides their lives are more important than the quest and orders a full retreat. They rush to put as much distance as possible between themselves and the entrance to the second floor. They hope that moving away from the entrance will lower the risk of bumping into the killer. Night falls, and the group is dismayed to realize they didn't make even half the distance they planned. Mia apologizes for being slow, but her teammates reassure her that they are all exhausted. They face a terrible choice: camp near the murderer or risk monster attacks in the dark, nothing like choosing between a serial killer and a goblin ambush. Great vacation spot. Suddenly, 2 cloaked figures appear behind them and ask what they are doing there. The party is terrified because they didn't hear the strangers approach them at all. The stranger smiles and asks if they ran into trouble to be stopping in such a place at night. The party claims they are just exhausted and resting for a second, trying to hide their fear. The boy realizes the strangers might not know about the danger and decides to warn them. He asks if they know about the adventurer murderer, and the stranger's expression darkens. The stranger admits that's the gist of it and realizes why the party was in such a hurry. They reveal they were looking for prey and notice the group. The killer notes they barely saw anyone on the second floor because the guild took action so quickly. They mockingly praise the Adventure Guild for actually functioning properly for once. Oh look, the villains are conducting a performance review. How corporate of them. The killer calls them inferiors for being so slow to realize who they are dealing with. He flexes his gauntlet, declaring that he is in a really good mood tonight. He grins maliciously, announcing his intention to squash some bugs. The killers draw their weapons as the party freezes in panic. The leader screams MIYA to snap his sister out of her frozen state. He orders Mia to listen to him and run away while the rest of them buy her time. Mia screams no, as a massive spray of blood marks the slaughter of her party. A brutal slash rips through the party leader's armor, spraying blood everywhere as Mia screams for her brother. The sheer wind pressure from the enemy's sword swing blows the rest of the party back. The leader realizes the difference in levels is overwhelming, while the attacker calls them ignorant bastards. Despite the hopeless situation, the leader yells at Mia to stand up and run away. Gimuru smiles through his pain, noting that it's the first time he's ever heard the wardy shout like that. The party members refuse to give up, declaring they will show the enemy what they are made of. The female mage warns the swordsman Kaido not to kill them all or there won't be any test subjects left. Kaido complains that their futile struggles make him want to kill every single one of them. The mage insists that a human mage like Mia is rare and precious material that must be preserved. Kaido grins and asks if he can have a bit of fun with Mia before she is used for experiments. He complains about being stuck in the dungeon and asks if he can use her to relieve his stress. Seeing Mia's terror, Kaido decides she doesn't desire it and tells the mage to call him when she's finished. He turns his back on the scene, waving his hand dismissively as he walks away. Mia is paralyzed with fear, sobbing and whispering for them to go away. Kaido turns back, claiming it is an honor for an inferior woman to be used by a future legendary hero like him. He genuinely looks confused, asking why she would try to escape such a glorious opportunity. This guy's ego is so big it probably has its own gravitational pull. He demands that she show her sincerity and beg for his attention with tears of joy. Mia suddenly looks past him and cries out Oni-chan as she sees movement. He stands up, panting heavily and bleeding profusely from his fatal wounds. The mage is amazed by his tenacity and begs Kaido to capture him alive as great material. Irio ignores his injuries, focused entirely on protecting his sister one last time. He smiles warmly at Mia through the blood and tells her to run. He repeats the order to run away, accepting his fate. He screams for her to live on for the sake of everyone who died. Kaido tries to chase after Mia, shouting that he won't let her escape. Irio throws himself in the way, shouting, "Don't interrupt me," as he clashes with the hero. Kaido is forced to stop and marvels at the splendid life force of the dying adventurer. He complains that bugs die too easily, making it annoying to capture them alive. Irio whispers to himself, reciting combat tactics about using his head and riling up the enemy. He reminds himself that battles are a test of intelligence, not just power. As Irio recites Gold's teachings, Kaido looks away in disgust, calling him an unpleasant fellow. Imagine being so arrogant you get distracted by someone quoting a textbook. Taking advantage of Kaido looking away, Irio launches a surprise attack. Kaido dodges it instinctively, noting that the level difference makes the attack meaningless. However, the attack was a feint, allowing Irio to close the distance for a shield bash. Although the hit deals 0 damage, the party's leader succeeds in striking the arrogant hero. The shield connects solidly, proving that even a bug can touch a hero with the right strategy. Under the moonlight, a victorious elf stands over a defeated, bleeding human adventurer, sneering at his fallen opponent. Screaming, "You inferior human," the elf mercilessly drives a massive spear down toward the defenseless man. The ground explodes with force as the attack lands, kicking up debris and dust. While Kaido lies broken on the ground, the elf obsesses over his own appearance, furious that a human dared to touch his beautiful face, and promises suffering before death. A bespectacled elf interrupts, ordering his partner to ignore the dying man and chase the lab rat that is currently escaping, claiming they have done enough damage here. The vain elf is annoyed by the order, but the spectacle-wearing partner warns that if the escapee survives, information about their illicit activities will spread everywhere. Meanwhile, a young girl runs frantically through the forest, gasping for breath as she tries to put distance between herself and the murderers. Tears stream down her face as she realizes she is the only one left who can report these adventurer murderers to the world. She pushes her legs to move faster, knowing her companions sacrificed their lives just to buy her this brief head start. Suddenly massive, ornate pillars slam into the ground in front of her, cutting off her escape route and knocking her down. The vain elf descends from the sky, literally surfing on a giant floating sword, arrogantly proclaiming he will teach her the proper attitude for facing someone high and mighty. He boasts about his weapon, a phantom-grade sword once used by a master, reveling in the girl's terrified expression. He raises the weapon high, introducing it as Grandius, the stolen treasure of the Elf Kingdom. He explains that the sword allows for flight and can freely create clones of itself, making escape impossible. As fear threatens to paralyze her, the girl remembers a voice from her past telling her not to give up. Imagine stealing a legendary national treasure sword capable of infinite cloning and flight, and using it to play Silver Surfer while bullying a level 5 rookie in the woods. Peak villain behavior. She snaps out of her despair, resolving to make her friend's sacrifices count, and begins chanting a spell to manifest ice blades. With a shout, she summons giant icicles, trying to convince herself that her idol, Kuro-san, could easily defeat these guys. She hurls the ice magic at the elf while sprinting away, refusing to let this be the end. The elf barely reacts, watching her run with disdain, calling her struggle futile and annoying. He easily keeps pace with her on his flying sword, gliding effortlessly while she stumbles through the dirt. He dismissively swats away her ice attacks, promising to make sure she can't even struggle anymore. He accelerates, aiming Grandius directly at her legs to cripple her movement permanently. The attack connects with brutal force, shattering her defenses and sending her tumbling violently across the ground. The elf lands, scoffing at the idea that her weak ice swords could ever slow him down, while she desperately crawls away. He stands over her laughing and tells her to just give up and spread herself for the sake of his twisted, future hero delusions. Despite the pain and fear, the girl glares back at him through her tears, calling him out for being stubborn. She yells that he isn't a hero. Real heroes are people like Kuro-san who use amazing magic to help others. She screams that he is far from a legend, just a coward who gets off on bullying the weak. With all the courage she has left, she looks him in the eye and calls him a loser. The word hits a nerve. The elf's internal monologue reveals his deep insecurity about being weak and unable to level up anymore. Enraged by the truth, the elf loses his composure completely, screaming at her to shut up. He commands all the floating sword clones to descend at once, intending to shred her to pieces. The girl curls into a ball as the massive blades converge on her from every angle. In that split second, she refuses to accept death, thinking of the sacrifices made for her and the message she must deliver. Just as the swords are about to strike, a dark, swirling vortex of energy erupts around her. Her eye snaps open in shock as the space around her warps. The swords slam into the ground, kicking up dust, but the elf looks confused. There was no sensation of hitting flesh. The dust clears to reveal nothing. The elf is flabbergasted, wondering if a bug like her could possibly use high-level teleportation magic. He frantically looks around the clearing, swinging his sword in frustration, demanding to know where she went. The bespectacled partner arrives, noticing the commotion, and asks if the inferior mage has been disposed of. The vain elf is forced to admit he lost her, leaving his partner shocked and horrified. The partner realizes the gravity of the situation. If she reports them to the guild, the news will reach the elf kingdom that they stole Grandius. He explains that the kingdom will dispatch the White Knights, elite warriors sent to fix the kingdom's reputation and retrieve the sword. The vain elf starts sweating profusely, terrified at the thought of the captain of the White Knights hunting them down. The partner reveals that the captain brings level 2,000 knights, while the captain himself has surpassed level 3,000. Terrified, they decide to abandon the area immediately, planning to use the sword's flight ability to escape to a new location. Trying to reassure themselves, they agree to continue their research elsewhere until they can break the limits and become untouchable. Suddenly, a terrifying, deep voice interrupts their planning. "You bastards aren't going anywhere." A hooded figure stands ominously in the clearing, having teleported the girl to safety and retrieved Kaido's body. The layout shows the battered girl and the injured adventurer lying safely behind the newcomer's protective stance. The hood falls back slightly to reveal a mask, and eyes burning with absolute murderous rage. Light stands silently near the fallen party members, shocking the villains with his sudden appearance. Kaido is terrified and baffled, unable to comprehend how he failed to detect Light's presence despite his high level. Light calls out the names of Wardy and Gamura, staring at their lifeless bodies. He gently closes their eyes, mourning their deaths in silence. Nemumu arrives carrying the injured Irio and reports to Light that the boy is still alive. Light immediately casts Heal and Sleep to stabilize Irio's condition and ease his pain. Light weeps openly, asking why good people like them had to suffer such a cruel fate. He recalls how hard the party worked to become adventurers in a world that discriminates against humans. He mourns that after all their effort to survive, they met such an unreasonable and senseless end. Light regrets that he didn't get to spend much time with them or know them better. He imagines a timeline where he was just a regular farmer and they could have all been friends. Tears stream down his face as he realizes that wish will never come true now. Light turns to the villains with cold fury, declaring he will not forgive a single one of them. The mage tries to lie, claiming the party was already dying when they arrived and that they tried to heal them. Light shuts them down instantly, revealing he saved Mia and she told him everything. The villains panic, realizing Light knows the truth and fearing he has already reported them to the guild. Light laughs coldly, revealing he didn't report them because he wants to hunt them down himself. Kaido's fear turns to manic joy, believing his luck has turned because the only witness delivered himself to be killed. Kaido rants that killing Light and the kid will solve everything and secure his path to becoming a legend. Light interrupts, telling Kaido he is wrong and that he won't be climbing any ranks today. Light vows to make Kaido feel the exact pain he brought upon everyone else before killing him. Kaido swears on his title as the hero Light that he will kill Light with his own hands. Kaido orders his subordinates not to interfere, and they bow in compliance. Kaido mocks Light, incredulous that an inferior thinks he can kill a future legendary hero. Screaming, "I will kill you," Kaido charges forward with a furious full-power swing. The massive sword strikes, but the attack is stopped instantly with a dull sound. Kaido's face twists in shock as he realizes his attack didn't connect as intended. Light blocks the massive blade effortlessly with his staff, looking unimpressed and asking, "Is that all?" Enraged by the disrespect, Kaido screams, "Don't screw with me," and prepares another strike. He swings his sword wildly, but Light doesn't even flinch. Minions watch in shock as a human kid blocks the hero. Light notes Kaido fights like a wild boar using only raw strength. All those levels and legendary gear, yet he fights like a toddler throwing a tantrum in a toy store. Light parries the attacks easily, calling the fight boring as he taps Kaido's weapon away. Light stares Kaido down with terrifying intensity, shaking the villain's confidence. Light casually smacks Kaido on the head with his staff, making a loud thonk sound. Kaido collapses to the ground screaming in pain while his mage looks on in horror. Light stands over the fallen hero, disappointed, calling him too weak. Light taunts him, asking him to try harder because he'll die before Light can even inflict proper suffering. Humiliated, Kaido scrambles up screaming and summons the power of his sword, Grandis. The chapter opens with a narration introducing the power of the Elven Kingdom's national treasure. Kaido screams, "You fucking inferior," as he prepares a devastating attack from above. He launches a massive explosion of energy, shocking Light with its sudden intensity. The attack tears through the forest, creating a massive shockwave. Light analyzes the attack, realizing that different magical effects are applied to each of the cloned swords. The mage notes that Kaido's ferocious attacks with Grandius are overwhelming, wondering how long the human can last. Narration explains the armament ranks, placing Phantom Class as the third highest tier. Grandius is described as a first-class sword that can create freely manipulatable clones of itself. Each cloned sword is imbued with a different elemental effect, and the number of clones depends on the user's skill. Kaito unleashes 30 enhanced swords, an attack that no ordinary human could hope to deal with. The narration states that even monsters of a similar level wouldn't escape unscathed from such high-output magic. Light dodges the barrage, thinking that at this current level the attack could never hit him. Light gracefully twists in the air to avoid the incoming blades. Kaido is stunned that Light blocked the strike, while Light notes it was slightly better but still not close. The mage is in disbelief that Kaido's strike was stopped even after using the clones as a diversion. The mage panics, unable to understand how a human can fight on equal footing with a level 1500 elf. Kaido accuses Light of being a despicable coward for wearing magician garbs to lower his guard. He yells that there is no way a magician could fight him like this, insisting Light must be a first-class warrior. Light calmly explains that his gift, Unlimited Gacha, makes him a rearguard with magic beyond first-class magicians. He admits his frontline skills aren't specialist level and defines his unique role as an unlimited cards magician. Light's eyes glow as he declares he will show Kaito exactly how he is a magician. Light casts ice swords, summoning a massive array of frozen blades around him. The mage is terrified, screaming that it's impossible to cast such high-level magic without a chant. Dozens of ice swords hover in the air, matching the number of Grandius's clones. Kaido screams, "Don't fuck with me," refusing to believe that low-level ice magic can stop his legendary sword. The ice swords and Grandius clones collide, shattering against each other in a burst of energy. Kaido sweats profusely, realizing his attacks are being perfectly cancelled out. The air is filled with explosions as the two barrages annihilate one another. Kaito yells, "Not yet," and pours more power into Grandius, refusing to lose. He's trying so hard with his glowing sword while our boy is basically playing Fruit Ninja. Embarrassing. Light looks at him coldly and asks, "You done?" as Kaito grits his teeth in frustration. The battle rages on, with ice and steel shattering everywhere. The mage realizes Light's ice swords are perfectly controlled to counter Kaito and filled with unbelievable magical energy. The mage notes that casting 30 spells simultaneously while controlling them surpasses even elven magicians. Light thinks to himself that he still has a long way to go compared to Ellie, who could control 1,000 swords while humming. Light observes that the clones have the same power as his ice swords, dismissing Grandius as just a phantom-class sword. He admits it's an impressive item for not consuming the user's magic, but decides to stop playing along. Light's expression darkens as he decides to wrap things up and stop exploiting Kaito's weakness. Kaito begins to break down, screaming that this cannot be happening to a future hero and brave. He refuses to accept that he is struggling against an inferior brat while wielding Grandius. Kaito declares that Grandius is a holy sword gifted by the Heavenly Master and is the elven national treasure. Light and his party freeze, looking confused by the mention of that name. Light asks, "You know about Master?" shocked to hear the term used. Light demands an answer, asking why Kaito is bringing up Master. Kaito bursts into manic laughter, mocking Light for not even knowing this. Kaito grins arrogantly, revealing he is a submaster, a descendant carrying the master's blood. "I have a god's lineage." "Cool story, bro." Light has a gacha addiction and infinite cards, you lose. Light stares in utter shock at the revelation. Kaido stands with arms spread, declaring he is a noble existence completely different from trashy inferiors. Light narrows his eyes, processing the unexpected information about Kaido being a submaster and descendant. Light decides on a change of plans and calls out to Gold and Nemumu. Light commands them to capture the enemies and take them to the abyss. He orders them to squeeze every bit of information out of their heads first. Killing comes later. Light specifically assigns the Dark Elf to Gold and Nemumu, ordering them not to let him escape. Gold and Nemumu accept the order, while the mage comments on how scary they are. The mage smiles, admitting he is bad at fighting but claims to have other methods. He summons his test subjects to be their opponents. Nemumu reacts with shock as massive shapes appear. Two grotesque monsters appear. The mage asks proudly what they think of his creation. He explains they are chimeras, human-monster hybrids created from his research. Nemumu looks at them in disgust, calling the act atrocious. The mage details that one is fused with trolls and the other with a special rock lizard. He boasts that he has succeeded in surpassing the growth limits of humans, causing their levels to soar. He admits they are unstable unless he uses a surplus of humans, but aims to perfect them. His goal is to create warriors with non-standard levels like masters or submasters artificially. I need more humans for experiments, says the guy who definitely won't survive the next 5 minutes. Bold career plan. He declares he needs to conduct more experiments using as many humans as necessary. Nemumu is furious. Nemumu turns to Gold and begs to kill them immediately. Gold says, "You've got to be kidding me." Nemumu glares at the mage, asking furiously what he thinks humans are. She accepts Light's order to capture them, but vows absolutely not to let the bastard escape. The mage laughs, offended at being called a bastard, claiming a human child can't comprehend his research. Nemumu grits her teeth, trembling with rage. The mage sends the chimeras forward to show the sublimity of his research. Nemumu dashes forward to attack, telling the monsters to rest in peace. Gold attacks with golden radiance, promising to release them from torment. The attacks land simultaneously, creating a massive impact and cloud of dust. Nemumu sheathes her blade, declaring she will wrap this up and target the mage next. The mage smiles smugly as the smoke clears, calling them hasty. The chimeras begin to regenerate rapidly, laughing distortedly. The mage laughs maniacally, stating it is impossible to kill his test subjects this easily. Meanwhile, Kaido yells at Light, angry that he is being ignored. Light agrees with Kaido, deciding to end the fight right now. Kaido is enraged by Light's filthy composure and vows to crush it. Kaido unleashes Grandius' biggest and strongest technique. Light watches the attack coming without a hint of fear. The scene cuts back to the chimeras being smashed violently with gruesome sound effects. Nemumu attacks furiously, yelling at them to stop making disgusting sounds and stay dead. The mage mocks Nemumu, asking if she is ashamed to struggle against such enemies. He mocks Gold as well for failing to kill them. Gold grunts, admitting he is struggling because he has to protect the unconscious Irio while fighting. The mage claims it's useless and offers gentle treatment if they quietly surrender. The mage decides to finish it quickly so as not to keep Milord waiting. He orders the chimeras to rise immediately, but he notices something is wrong. The mage panics, screaming impossible, as his chimeras fail to regenerate and disintegrate. Nemumu appears instantly in front of the mage, telling him he doesn't know why because he is a fool. Nemumu delivers a devastating kick to the mage's face. Nemumu drags the unconscious mage. Gold asks if she went too far and she replies, not far enough, she dragged him like a bag of trash. Customer service at the abyss is going to be terrible for him. Nemumu looks at her messy footwear and complains she needs to buy a new pair of boots when they get back. Kaido gathers his magic, declaring he will use the full power of his giant sword Grandius. He screams that he will make Light regret making a fool out of him. The narration explains that multiple magical effects are condensed into this single, devastating blow. Light blocks the attack effortlessly, calling the technique nothing more than petty tricks. Light observes that despite its size, the sword increases in speed by expanding and contracting erratically. He analyzes the weapon, wondering if it functions closer to a magical whip than a sword. Light mocks the attack, calling it a street performance that just looks flashy. Street performance. Ouch. Next, he'll ask if Kaido does balloon animals for birthday parties. Kaido is visibly shaken and insulted by the comparison to a street performer. He screams, asking how an inferior dares to insult Grandius, accusing Light of only knowing how to dodge. Kaido begins swinging wildly in frustration, cursing repeatedly as he fails to hit. He thinks to himself that if he can land just one hit, he can kill this tiny insect. Light taunts him mid-dodge, reminding him of his earlier threat about if you hit. Light tells him to attack all he wants. Kaido starts panic sweating, realizing it's impossible. Light delivers a powerful blow that sends Kaido flying through the air. Kaido rants that no inferior species should match him when he wields Grandius, screaming "Die!" repeatedly. He questions why and yet, as he fails to comprehend the situation. Kaido screams that Grandius is the national treasure of the Elven Kingdom and his strongest attack. Light punches through the attack, shattering Kaido's defense and sending him crashing down. Light declares that's enough as the dust settles. In the background, Nemumu finishes her fight, showing the battle is won on both fronts. Light kicks Kaido violently, sending him rolling across the ground. Kaido lies on the ground, beaten and bleeding, unable to stand. Light lines over him, promising that he has a lot of pain and suffering to look forward to. Kaido breaks immediately, screaming, I'll tell you everything. He begs on his knees for forgiveness and pleads for Light not to kill him. He frantically offers secrets, floor plans of the castle, important facilities, and other interests. He even offers to hand over Grandius and tells Light everything he wants to know. Light looks down on him coldly, asking, why don't you resist? How pathetic. Light reminds Kaido that he claimed to be a hero and asks why he isn't fighting back. Light compares him to Mia's party, inexperienced adventurers who fought to the bitter end to protect each other. Light states that those who never give up in any situation are the ones called heroes. Kaido cries that there is no point in fighting because winning against Light is impossible. Kaido tries to negotiate, claiming he is 200 years old and deserves more respect than a human child. Light ignores the age comment and gives him one more chance, ordering him to pick up his sword. Light swears that if Kaido can inflict even the slightest damage in the next round, he will release him. Light screams at him to stand up, pick up the sword, and show his power. Kaido tries to bargain again, offering to guide them to the Elven Kingdom, but Light insists he fight. Light yells, you're supposed to be the future hero. Light demands to see how far Kaido can go. Instead of fighting, Kaido turns and runs away screaming in terror. Kaido cries to himself that this must be a dream and wonders why he has to suffer. Light casts Solar Ray, firing a beam of light at the fleeing coward. The beam hits Kaido, causing him to scream in agony. Light stands over the fallen elf, confirming Mia's words. He is just a loser running from reality, neither courageous nor a hero. Light and his servants stand triumphantly over the unconscious bodies of Kaido and the mage. Light decides to take them to the abyss, rather than leaving them as monster food, though his intentions are far from kind. The mage wakes up groggily, and Light remarks that he recognizes them from the Dungeon Q incident a month ago. The mage is terrified that Light remembers such a minor interaction, realizing he should have been more cautious back then. Light sighs, wondering why fate always seems to bring him trouble like this. Light casts Transfer, enveloping the group in a massive pillar of light. They arrive instantly in a dark, rocky landscape, leaving the mage confused about where they are. Light welcomes them to his home, the deepest and most dangerous part of the abyss. He warns the terrified captives that if they don't believe him, they are free to die right now. The Abyss servants, Irime, Ayuoki, and Nazuna, greet Light warmly, completely ignoring the prisoners. Nazuna jumps on Light, asking to sleep with him tonight, while Mei notes the strange creatures he brought back. Light explains they are criminals who murdered humans and have info on the Master, so they are to be interrogated and executed. The girl's expressions instantly darken into terrifying masks of fury upon hearing the prisoners interfered with Light. Mei guarantees she will make them regret being born by inflicting excruciating pain. Eri promises to break every torture taboo she knows, urging Light not to dirty his hands. Ayuoki glares at them with pure hatred, unable to comprehend how such low-level beings dared to exist near Light. Nazuna vows to crush them for their disrespect, radiating killing intent. Light orders them not to touch the prisoners yet, as they need to extract specific information first. The girls switch back to being cheerful and obedient instantly, accepting the order with smiles. Light instructs Gold to take the injured Irio away for proper treatment. He asks Nemomu to assist him in giving Gamura and Wardy a burial. The mage begs for mercy, claiming he is a victim who was threatened by Kaido into doing the experiments. Light coldly asks if the mage spared his human victims when they begged him with the exact same words. Light declares that's my answer, signaling the maids to begin the interrogation. The mage screams in terror as he is dragged into the gloom, wishing it was all a dream. The scene shifts to a peaceful morning at the inn Colonel in the city. Mia wakes up in bed, shocked to find Light sitting nearby. Light greets her gently, and she looks around in confusion. Light explains they are safe at the inn where his party is staying. Light tells her a cover story. They went to the dungeon to find the killer for fame and reported it to the guild. He claims they found her just in time to save her from the elves who were on guard. He lies that the villains escaped to the deep dungeon, so they prioritized saving her and Irio instead of chasing. He reassures her that Irio is recovering in the hospital, and she frantically asks about her brother. Light hesitates, unable to give her the answer she wants regarding Gamura and Wardy. He hands her small containers containing the hair of her fallen friends. Light apologizes for only being able to retrieve their hair while saving Irio. Mia cries but thanks him for bringing back even a part of them. She clutches the keepsakes, thanking him repeatedly through her tears. The reality sets in and she begins to wail in grief. She screams in anguish, mourning her lost friends and brother. Light stands outside the door, still able to hear her cries clearly. He laments that his high level allows him to hear her suffering even through the door. Mia's scream echoes painfully through the hallway. A vision of Mia's smiling party fades away as her scream continues. The narration reveals that due to the adventurer killer information, the guild raised Light's party rank by 1. Light is surprised they reached rank C just for information, having expected they would need to deliver corpses as evidence. Back at the inn, Mia and Irio sit with Light. Light says I see as they share their news. Mia announces they are quitting as adventurers and escorting a caravan back to their hometown tomorrow. Irio smiles sheepishly, admitting he has already sold most of his equipment since they are leaving so soon. Mia tells Light that they are only breathing today thanks to him. Both Mia and Irio bow deeply, expressing their sincere gratitude for everything he did. Light humbly insists it was luck, mentioning the advice and burn medicine they received. He notes Irio survived due to Yanark's twisted first aid, and Mia was saved by the SSR bracelet. Light thinks to himself that despite his high level, he isn't omnipotent and couldn't save Gamura and Wardy. Light suggests that they could still team up with others or attend the magic school in the dukedom. Mia admits she is too scared to enter dungeons again after the incident. Irio adds that it feels wrong to adventure without Gamura and Wardy, so teaming up with others doesn't feel right. Mia explains they want to give their friends a proper burial back home, and she plans to study magic on her own. Mia cheerfully invites Light to visit their hometown, promising a warm welcome from everyone. Light smiles and promises to come drink up all their sake one day. Mia smiles radiantly with tears in her eyes, saying she will be waiting for him. Light watches them leave from the window, and Gold comments that they will be okay. Gold believes that despite their sadness, they will work hard to find new paths. Light thanks Gold and decides to head back to the Abyss to fulfill a promise to May and Eerie. A scene of graves appears in the Abyss. Light vows to take the villains to the grave of the fallen. Light tells Gold he's leaving and casts teleportation release to return to his base. A maid welcomes Light back, thanking him for his precious time. Eerie the witch is extremely happy to see him, wanting to make today an anniversary. Light smiles and asks for a report on what happened with Kaito and Yanark. May explains that Eerie extracted their memories for accuracy, and she used forbidden magic to scour their brains. Light receives the compiled documents containing all the acquired information. Light reads about the Submaster, those with the Master's blood who possess high magic and strength. He reads a disturbing line: "When neglected, the possibility arises where the world can be destroyed." Light tries to interpret this, wondering if it refers to military balance or actual destruction of the world. He concludes that even if the Master is strong, they are alone, so the goal remains unclear. Eerie notes that the line about world destruction was muttered by the Elf Kingdom's White Knight captain. Eerie explains she couldn't find more info even after diving into Kaito and Yanark's brains again. Light agrees that further investigation is useless if Eerie's magic couldn't find anything. Light opens a dark, swirling portal, revealing the tormented forms of Kaito and Yanark. Light declares they have given them enough torture, and it is time to end it. He lists their sins: attacking Irio and Mia, human experimentation, and mass murder. Light activates SSR Feast of the Dead to consume the villains. The spirits of the dead swarm Kaito and Yanark, tearing them apart as they scream in agony. Light prays that this at least releases the dead human's pain, then asks Eerie about her news. Eerie happily announces that the revenge plan of Sasha is completely finished. She says they only need one word from Light to commence immediately. Eerie reveals that Sasha has a fiancé in the White Knights, and they plan to kidnap him for info. The target is identified as the vice captain of the White Knights based on Kaito's memories. Light praises Eerie, calling it a really good idea, and orders them to proceed. Light sits on his throne, excited to see the expression Sasha will make when she begs for her life in despair. Sasha narrates her past as an illegitimate child of a noble and a commoner who died. She explains how her abusive step-family abruptly changed their attitude, adoring her instead of bullying her. It was all because she managed to get engaged to Michael, a royal-blooded knight, by playing him. Sasha recounts the reward she got for killing Light, the suspected master, while Michael listens intently. They laugh together about how Light looked when they shot his leg, and he tried to run awkwardly. Michael shares his own sadistic joy in watching victims beg, mentioning he destroyed a human village. Sasha agrees, saying Light's despair-filled face was the funniest thing she ever saw. Wow, they really are a match made in hell. I hope their wedding registry includes matching coffins. Michael expresses his gratitude for meeting a woman as wonderful as Sasha. Sasha feigns happiness about the engagement, calling it a dream come true. They flirt in the gazebo, exchanging sickeningly sweet compliments. Later, they share a carriage ride through the city, enjoying what they call a lovely day. Michael calls them a perfect match, unaware of the true nature of the woman sitting next to him. They discuss their upcoming wedding at the end of the year, thinking it is still far away. Sasha worries about fitting into her wedding dress, acting the part of a blushing bride. The carriage halts abruptly, interrupting their conversation. A human slave dropped cargo on the road, apologizing profusely for the mistake. Sasha whips the exhausted slave, screaming that talking livestock deserves no breaks. She thinks that if Light had been a real master, she would have used her body to keep him, but humans are useless. She looks out the window and freezes, seeing a familiar figure standing in the crowd. Sasha stares in horror at the boy who should be dead, while he looks back calmly. She stops the carriage and sprints into an alley, desperate to prove her eyes wrong. She runs into a dead end, convincing herself it's impossible for Light to be there. She tries to logic it away, telling herself a human couldn't survive or grow that much in 3 years. She trembles, thinking she just imagined it because she was talking about him, until she sees a note. The note reads, "I will be waiting at the giant tower Light." Sasha screams in pure terror, realizing her nightmare is real. She lists everything she gained by killing him, status, money, royalty, and realizes it's all at risk. She knows she will lose absolutely everything if anyone finds out Light is alive. Terrified of returning to being bullied, she resolves to murder him for real this time. She panics, not knowing where the giant tower is, until she hears a laugh from above. Light and Eerie look down from the roof, ready to start the revenge plan of Sasha. Light smiles confidently as Eerie prepares to unleash hell on the target. The Elven Queendom is established as a land of rigid hierarchy and military power. The White Knights are introduced as the most overwhelming force in the land, fearing no one. In a serene castle garden, the knights enjoy tea while a scream echoes in the background. Commander Hardy is introduced, presiding over the table. Sharfat, a high-ranking knight, is shown groping the human maid Sosha and praising her chest. Twins Nia and Kia laugh maniacally, establishing the group's unhinged dynamic. They discuss Kaito, a rogue former member who killed adventurers to steal a legendary sword. Sharfat notes Kaito reached his growth limit and was recently humiliated by a human child. Nia proudly displays Kaito's severed ear, confirming he escaped into the dungeon. Sharfat explains that the higher-ups want the White Knights to clean up their own mess quietly. He emphasizes that orders from the top are absolute, and the stain must be removed. Sharfat immediately loses focus to flirt with Sosha again, preferring romance to work. Nia and Kia argue violently over whether to gouge out Kaito's eyes or take his other ear. They casually refer to a slave bought with their own money as a disposable object. The twins mock Sharfat for his bad taste in finding a human woman attractive. They suggest that killing humans quickly is a form of mercy given their weakness. Sharfat agrees, stating that extinction is preferable to a life of misery for the weak. A flashback warns Sharfat that his stubborn ideology will eventually lead to his downfall. He arrogantly dismisses the warning, refusing to change his character. The sound of a teacup hitting a saucer silences the bickering group. Commander Hardy orders them to shut up, calling their noise trash that ruins the tea. Hardy instantly obliterates the nearby slave with a magic blast to prove a point. The twins are ordered to clean up the bloody mess in the yard. Hardy switches to a polite smile, apologizing to the terrified Sosha for the noise. Kaito is dismissed as a third-rate failure who couldn't handle the pressure. Sharfat vows to handle the situation personally to save the queen's face. Hardy reveals Kaito was a failed candidate for commander who hit his limit. Hardy questions if Sharfat is secretly aiming for the commander's seat. The concept of submaster blood is introduced as the key to power. Elves are said to possess the most master blood of all races. Awakening this blood allows them to break level limits and reach thousands in power. The White Knights are revealed to be an interdimensional order of awakened beings. Kaito went rogue because he couldn't accept that he had stopped growing. Hardy warns Sharfat that a human lover will stain his pure blood. It is revealed that there are fewer than 20 submasters and no true masters left. Hardy claims keeping Sosha is just a hobby to watch a human get excited. Bored with the game, Hardy decides it is time to kill Sosha. Hardy invites Sharfat to shoot Sosha in the back as she runs away. Sharfat agrees. The official Imperial order to kill Kaito is expected to arrive shortly. The scene shifts to midnight in a forest near the capital. A mysterious tower suddenly appears, setting the stage for the next battle. A narration box explains that chaos has engulfed the Elven Queendom due to a mysterious tower appearing in the Old Grove forest. In the forest, a group of elves drags a young human girl on a leash, yelling at her not to waste time. A diagram shows how the tower's appearance has pushed high-level monsters out of the forest, blocking the highway and cutting off logistics to the port city. At a guild hall, adventurers view a request to investigate the tower, while the regular knights are too busy securing the roads to help. The elves in the forest discuss the danger, noting that level 150-200 monsters are fleeing in terror from something in the tower. One elf reveals his callous plan. He bought the human brat specifically to use as a decoy so they don't have to risk their own lives. The girl cries, terrified. The female elf mocks her, saying human women have terrible taste while the others agree. The leader suggests they can gather info while the girl is being eaten, treating her death as a strategic resource. An elf raises a hand to strike the girl, demanding she move her ass or get hit. The girl begs for mercy. The elf scoffs, noting that human brats are cheap and easily replaceable if this one breaks. He sneers, calling her talking livestock and telling her to make herself useful. Abruptly, blood drips onto the girl's face. The elf who was just speaking is silenced. A massive four-legged beast with a snake tail, a hellhound snake hybrid, appears, looming over the terrified party. The monster crunches down on the elf leader, killing him instantly while the girl screams for help. The monster rampages, destroying the elven party. The girl cowers, expecting to be next. The girl opens her eyes, realizing she hasn't been eaten yet, though the forest is silent. Footsteps approach, a voice chuckles, ha ha ha, this is one hell of a treasure. A group of rough-looking men with mohawks and spikes appears, claiming it's their lucky day to find a free slave. The girl despairs, terrified that she has traded death for violation and slavery, thinking she'd rather be eaten alive. Suddenly, she realizes her wounds are healed. The thugs gave her an expensive high-grade potion. The Mohawks scold her for going barefoot because it lowers her cell-value, but their tone is oddly caring. One punk offers to make her a walking stick to help her walk, though he gruffly tells her she has to wait to take a bath. They offer to carry her if she can't stand and promise to make her a meal later, completely contradicting their villainous appearance. High above on a wall, two figures, Ayuki Catbeard and Eri Witch Hat, watch the scene, confirming they are protecting the girl. Yuri asks how it went. Ayuki, relaxing, replies with a casual Naya tilde. They discuss their Master Light's orders. Controlling the surface monsters is hard work, but Ayuki is managing it. Eri reveals Light's instructions: save humans if the monsters or people behave atrociously. It's a test of the subordinate's judgment. Eri admits she is willing to kill anyone who behaves atrociously, praising Light for testing their emotional capabilities. Eri questions the Mohicans specifically, seemingly baffled by their obsession with their weird hairstyles. Eri worries they might mess up the plan, but decides to just keep an eye on them rather than intervene yet. Eri is anxious about interpreting Light's will correctly. Ayuki tells her not to worry. Ayuki chides Eri, saying it is disrespectful to assume they can fully understand their lord's grand ideas. Eri argues that a woman's duty is to be close to her lord, support him, and nurture his children. Ayuki counters that they should simply be whatever the lord desires, a weapon, a shield, or a tool. Personal desire is irrelevant. Ayuki states coldly that anything beyond total utility is unnecessary and unacceptable. Eri asks if Ayuki's philosophy isn't just the same as being a pet. Ayuki admits she has the urge to kill Eri when they argue. Ayuki warns Eri, if you cause trouble for our lord, I will kill you. Eri smiles dangerously, challenging Ayuki to try it, turning the conversation into a lethal standoff. The two powerful subordinates sit side by side on the ledge, their shadows stretching out, radiating tension. Eri breaks the tension by softly calling Ayuki's name. Ayuki seems to have dozed off. Ayuki wakes up with a Naya. Eri decides she's heard enough of Ayuki's honest opinion for now. Zuri flies off, offering to have another heart-to-heart later. Aoyuki remains on the wall. Back on the ground, the Mohawks have safely handed the girl over to a merchant friend, telling her to take care of her health. The Mohicans prepare to head southwest the next day, continuing their mission. It is revealed that the Mohicans are actually Light's companions, summoned from infinite gacha cards, and they hate how cruel this world's towns are. Many other low-level summons, fishermen, peddlers are scattered across the world, gathering information for Light. The Mohicans discuss rumors that the human kingdom is selling its own people to other nations, disgusted by the lack of morals. The leader warns them to keep their voices down, as they don't know who is listening. They confirm the plan to work with the Snake Hellhound and Aoyuki's monsters to push forward. Scene shift to a desk where Sasha is reading a report, frustrated by the location. Sasha complains about having to go through an area with level 200 monsters and a giant four-legged creature. Sasha is determined to reach the mysterious tower to find Light before the White Knights or Mikkel find him. Sasha declares with a twisted expression that she will kill Light with her own hands. In the capital, reports confirm there is still no information on the tower, while monsters flood the forest. A minister warns that if high-level monsters block the highway, logistics will stop, causing suffering for the people. He suggests immediately deploying the White Knights to exterminate the monsters. The queen sits on her throne, stating she wishes to avoid causing any suffering to her people. Hardy counters, arguing it would be reckless to send the White Knights in blind without information. Hardy, commander of the White Knights, mocks the PM, suggesting he's only good for playing with numbers and cheating people. Hardy lectures that accurate information is the eyes and ears of combat, dismissing the PM's paperwork concerns. The PM grunts as Hardy tells him not to let amateurs interfere with military matters. Narration reveals the rift. Hardy, conservative versus the Prime Minister, reformist, playing political games even during a crisis. The Queen intervenes to stop the bickering. She sides with Hardy, acknowledging his point. The Queen orders increased rewards to attract skilled adventurers for information gathering. Hardy leaves the meeting room, looking bored with the proceedings. In a private room, Hardy relaxes and thanks the Queen, calling her mother for her help earlier. The Queen smiles warmly, revealing that Hardy is her son, the Prince, and she protects him from dangerous tasks. She dotes on Hardy-chan, saying she couldn't let him storm into the forest without intel. Hardy admits the PM is capable but notes his anti-Queen views are too strong. They may need to force him out. The Queen smiles terrifyingly, pitying the PM for being targeted by Hardy, the strongest of the elves. The Queen worries the tower could shake the country's foundation if neglected. She speculates darkly, could this be the return of the Demon King? If the Demon King returns, a human hero would inevitably be born to counter it. Hardy questions if heroes are only born from humans. The Queen explains the real threat. If a master is born, elves might be destroyed. That master must be killed. Hardy recalls a candidate for master appearing 3 years ago, a choice between two evils. The Queen confirms that candidate wasn't a true master, but they killed him as a precaution anyway. Hardy muses that he wouldn't have killed it immediately. He would have used the body to prove humans are pests first. Hardy tells his mother it isn't fitting for a commander to steal small tasks like that. Hardy declares that they must exterminate all humans before a master is born within the 8 nations. Close up on Hardy's eyes. Humans are pests and they are not allowed to live. Scene shifts to the countryside. A wagon arrives at a forward camp near the forest. Light disguised steps out, eager to take a look at the chaos. He scans the soldiers, adventurers, and merchants, wondering just how ugly they look. The area is like a small village, crowded with adventurers preparing to investigate the tower. Background chatter reveals that the Thunder Arrow clan was destroyed, and the famous Black Clown Party is here. Light's party confirms their plan to enter the Old Grove Forest. Light monologues he is building his rank as Dark Kuro and planning his revenge on Sasha. This publicity stunt is part of Erie's plan. Light spots a group of elves. It is the elves' party, the ones from the Capital Guild yesterday. Light realizes that if they go into the forest, they will definitely try to kill them. Nemumu and Light are annoyed that the previous Thunder Arrow incident didn't scare them off. One of the elves mocks Nemumu again. Nemumu said, "Hey, who's the chopping board?" Light stares them down from under his hood. Light sends someone he speaks coldly, "Don't you dare touch her, both of you." Internally, Light thinks, "I didn't expect it to come so soon." He was warned of a near miss. Light tries to keep his composure, but Sasha is staring intently. Sasha suddenly shouts, "I saw her briefly when I handed her the note, you human kid." Light plays dumb, "Do you mean me?" Sasha gets up in his face. "To see her face this close, you have nothing to do with this." Light looks at her thinking, "It's been 3 years. Sasha commands, "Take off that stupid mask of yours and let me see your face." Light tries to deflect. "It's a bad wound and I don't want to show it to anyone. I'm sorry, but this mask was meant to cover my burns." Sasha snaps, "Don't make a big deal out of it. I said take it off, shut up." Sasha swings her hand violently to rip the mask off Light's face. The chapter ends with Sasha screaming, "You shitty little human." Sasha screams at Light, demanding he drop the mask so she can see his face immediately. Light plays along, secretly using his SSR clown's mask to project an illusion of a gruesome burn scar onto his face. Sasha is instantly repulsed by the sight, shouting at him to cover his disgusting face. She is so overcome with revulsion that she physically recoils and vomits, blaming the inferior for making her feel nauseous. However, this disgust fuels her denial. She convinces herself that in 3 years, a human inferior would have grown more than this stunted kid has, so he cannot be Light. She turns away, clutching a runic note, and reaffirms her goal. The real Light is in the mysterious tower. Her internal monologue reveals her true desperation. She begged Michael to let her become an adventurer again solely to kill Light and secure her position as the vice commander's fiancée. Light watches her storm off, noting what a shame it is to see her pathetic true nature exposed. Light's disguised party members Gold and Nemumu rejoin him. They confirm there was some trouble, but they are pressing on. Light explains the plan. They will continue pretending to be adventurers to investigate the tower and boost his dark persona's rank. As they trek deeper into the forest, Light senses they are being followed. He stops and calls out to the bushes, warning the fellows from the guild that it is dangerous beyond this point. The elven bullies from the previous day emerge, ignoring the warning. Light tells them clearly, "Come any closer and you'll die." The elves charge, yelling that they won't let him go and warning him not to screw with them. They surround Light's party, cutting off any escape. The leader pants heavily, declaring he will pay Light back in full for the humiliation he suffered yesterday. Light's eyes genuinely surprised that they managed to catch up. He thought he had lost them when they entered the forest. He looks at them with pity, remarking that it is a shame for such young talents to waste their lives on a petty vendetta. Light decides their fate. He tells them, "This is the path you chose, so I'll give you the proper ending." He turns to the empty air beside him and asks Mira to clean everything up because he doesn't want to leave corpses lying around. The elves laugh, asking who he is talking to and mocking the Black Clown party's reputation. They sneer that achieving something in the dwarves' area doesn't make Light impressive or tough. Suddenly Mira, a hooded figure, steps forward from the shadows, radiating a dark, crushing aura. She commands the inferiors to kneel in front of her. The elves, oblivious to their doom, scoff and tell Light to beg for his life if he wants them to let him go. Light, Gold, and Nemumu simply stare at them in silence. Mira laughs a chilling kekikek and declares they will all die for being rude to her lord. She unveils her power, transforming into a massive eldritch horror of writhing tentacles and gnashing teeth. The elves scream "Gyaa" as the monsters devour them instantly. Mira watches the slaughter, telling them there is no point in begging now and to just shut up and die. A massive swallowing sound echoes through the forest as the elves are consumed without a trace. Mira reverts to her small hooded form, Light apologizing for making her do something unnecessary. Mira reassures him, calling him master as part of their cover to calm him down. Mira smiles, stating she would eat tens of thousands for him, though she complains that these elves weren't delicious. Gold and Nemumu notes that while Mira is reliable, she is as scary as always. Mira insists they are friends and there is nothing to be scared of, then turns to the trees. She tells Light not to mind her earlier outburst and signals the rest of the group to reveal themselves. Ice Heat, the maid with twin tails, steps out first, declaring she exists to be useful to her master. Suzu, wearing a cap and holding a gun, agrees, stating she shares the exact same thought as her sister. Jack, the large muscular warrior, gives a thumbs up, telling Light to ask for help anytime because that's what a big bro does. The chapter ends with Light smiling warmly at his summoned subordinates, welcoming Ice Heat, Suzu, and Jack Nya back to the team. Ice Heat bows deeply, apologizing for her tardiness and for bringing something strange to the rendezvous. Light reassures her, telling her that her seriousness is a beautiful part of her character. Ice Heat introduces Suzu, the shy gunner hiding behind her. Suzu trembles silently, clutching her musket, unable to make eye contact. Ice Heat explains Suzu is extremely shy. Suzu stammers a quick apology to Light Sama and Ice Heat Nissan. The group begins moving toward the giant tower, led by Ice Heat. Jack Gold mentions he turned down an offer from Sama because he couldn't sit around while his younger bros worked hard. Jack grins, asking the group if they have been watching over Light properly. The other summons glare at Jack with serious killing intent for his casual tone, scaring him. Jack argues that Light doesn't want strictness 24/7 and that right now they are just family, so honorifics aren't needed. Jack lectures them, stating that treating Light like a distant lord satisfies their desires, but will only make Light feel lonely. The other summons look stunned, realizing the truth in Jack's words. Light smiles and gives permission for Jack to act as Jack Nya, telling the others not to glare at him. Despite the permission, the group's mood remains awkward and heavy as they walk. Light comments that it's been a while since he's seen Ice Heat without her usual abyssal armor. Ice Heat blushes, explaining she is learning the way of maid clothes from Mei Sama, though it's uncomfortable. Mira grills Ice Heat, threatening to strip her of her maid outfit right there. Ice Heat snaps back, refusing to do such a shameless act in front of Master and threatening to beat manners into Mira. Light observes their fighting, noting that despite their contrasting personalities, they are actually good friends who eat together often. Light notes that Suzu the gunner eats with her musket, Locke, which is apparently sentient. A narration box explains Suzu is a gunner, whose musket fires bullets at high speeds like arrows. Light notes that while Suzu looks like a beautiful girl, the card description says Suzu is both a girl and a boy. Suzu announces they have arrived at the giant tower. A wide shot of the massive white tower stretching into the sky. Light is impressed by its size up close. Sayayuki, Eri, and Nazana rush out of the tower to greet Light, shouting, "Welcome home, Master." Light smiles warmly at the trio, replying, "I'm home." Ayayuki explains she has applied magic to the tower's interior using the Abyss Dungeon Core to prevent surveillance. The group enters the tower. Light observes the vast, empty white hall. Light spots something massive lurking in the shadows of the hall. Eri introduces the massive creature as her pet, summoned specifically for their strategy. Eri explains the tower's gimmicks are currently off, allowing them to teleport directly to the highest floor. Light sits on a crystal throne at the top of the tower, surrounded by his kneeling subordinates. Eri takes the lead, announcing they will now discuss Sasha's revenge plan. The goal is the grand revenge celebration for Sasha, who plans to marry someone with royal blood. Eri states they will use Sasha's death to their benefit, rather than letting it be a waste. Light explains he will use the conflict to earn achievements and rank up as an adventurer. The subordinates ask permission to measure their true power against the surface's strongest warriors. They know they are too strong, but they want to test if they are really acceptable by fighting the White Knights seriously. After testing, they plan to cut off the Elf Kingdom's strength, vanquish them, and obtain info on the Master. They also want to observe how other kingdoms react to a force that surpasses them. Yuri notes the tower itself is just a sacrificial pawn and an indicator for the world. Light confirms the plan. Yuri reiterates that Sasha's revenge is the main point. Yuri explains that the pet on the first floor is the key. It will definitely appear. Sasha will come face to face with the pet. Yuri predicts Sasha will be terrified. Scene shift to Sasha outside the tower. She screams as a massive red dragon emerges from the tower. Sasha panics, realizing she cannot enter a place guarded by a dragon and wondering if Light is truly inside. Back in the tower, Light instructs the group. He will report to the guild, while Sasha will inevitably report to the kingdom. Scene shift to the palace. The queen is furious upon hearing a red dragon has settled in the tower. Ministers argue that since it's a dragon, it could fly to the capital and burn them down at any moment. The chancellor asks for the degree of certainty regarding the information. A minister confirms two sources, the Black Clowns, Light's party, and Sasha. He notes the Black Clowns are superior humans, and Sasha is the one who exposed the traitorous Dark Elf previously. He emphasizes Sasha's status as the fiancée of Vice Captain Mikkel, adding to her credibility. Since both a human party and an elf noble reported it, the experts agree the intel is solid. The court realizes they have no choice but to mobilize the White Knights to avert the crisis. The Chancellor or Commander yells absolutely, declaring the White Knights will defeat the Red Dragon. The Queen internally vows to kill the greedy Sasha for the attempt on Light's life and for ruining his happiness. She decides to utilize their greatest battle strength to escort, or perhaps target them. Back in the towers, Light reviews his top subordinates. Ayuki True Vampire Knight LVL 9999, Nazana Monster Tamer LVL 9999, Ellie Forbidden Mage LVL 9999. Suzu Gunner LVL 7777, and Mira Chimera LVL 7777 are also introduced with their ranks. Ice Heat and Jack pledge to bet their lives and wield their power for their master, regardless of enemies. The Elven Expedition Party gathers at the edge of the forest, preparing to enter the area and aim for the giant tower. Sasha's companions ask if she is really okay, cynically wondering if she will just give up and leave her mess for them to clean up. Sasha ignores the jab and firmly promises to guide them on the safest, most direct route to the objective. She declares that for the sake of the country, she wants to reach the giant tower without losing a single person. The leader notes that since she is nobility, he lent her Phantasm-class armor and will defend her if things get desperate. Sasha vows to do her duty for everyone, for Mikkel-sama, and for the protection of this country. A younger knight remarks that he is jealous of the vice captain for having a fiancée with such an overflowing patriotic heart. The twins, Nia and Kia, whisper that the vice captain had to pull a lot of strings with the chancellor to get Sasha on this mission. Mikkel asks Sasha to take the lead and guide them to the tower. He encourages her, reminding her that they must succeed for the sake of their brilliant future together. The party advances out of the forest, and the massive white tower comes into view in the distance. Nia and Kia are shocked by the sheer scale of the structure. Suddenly, a massive black beast steps out from the base of the tower. The commander identifies it as a snake-tailed giant four-legged beast, and estimates it is definitely over level 1000. Two more of the beasts emerge, bringing the count to 3 guardians at the entrance. A subordinate suggests a preemptive sniper strike, but the leader dismisses it as impossible to take them all on at once. He decides to avoid a wasteful fight, stating that their true target is the red dragon inside. Suddenly, a magical explosion erupts in the sky above the plains, acting as a signal. The commander notes that the curtain has risen and the operation has begun. The beasts react to the disturbance, letting out a deafening roar. They begin to charge toward the source of the distraction, leaving their post. The elven party watches from the bushes, waiting for the path to clear. The commander confirms that they have successfully lured out all 6 of the snake-tailed beasts. With the Guardians gone, he orders the group to rush the mysterious giant tower and hunt the red dragon. He warns everyone to stay on high alert, as the chance of other monsters being inside is high. The party sprints toward the open entrance of the tower. As they approach, Commander Hardy activates his signature magic, Silent. Sasha is suddenly plunged into absolute silence, unable to hear even her own heartbeat or breathing. The narration explains that Silent is a combat class magic art that prevents any sound from escaping. Hardy acts as the center of the spell, forcing everything within the surrounding area to be completely muted. The effect is psychologically devastating. After 10 minutes, even a strong man's spirit would be broken. Hardy remains unaffected by his own spell, which Sasha finds to be a terrifyingly unfair advantage. The party members exchange nervous glances in the unnatural silence. They cross the threshold and enter the main hall of the tower. Inside, Sasha grips her weapon, vowing to get rid of light with her own hands. The group rushes deeper into the hall, unaware of the trap beneath their feet. Suddenly, a massive magic circle lights up on the floor. The elves react with shock as the light engulfs them. They realize too late that it is a teleportation trap. The party is instantly separated, scattered across the first, second, third, and fourth floors of the tower. Sasha and Mikkel materialize on the fifth floor. Our boy greets them with a chilling, "Well then." Nia and Kia scream in frustration, blaming damn Sharfat for his incompetence in missing the traps. They analyze their surroundings, realizing they have been teleported away from the first floor and separated from the captain. They decide to go find the others, but are stopped by a voice asking if they are the opponents. Mira and Ice Heat appear, with Mira complaining that she wanted the prey all to herself instead of sharing. The twins are shocked that these enemies manage to appear behind them without being detected. Mira flashes a terrifying shark-toothed grin, assuring them they won't die right now because she has use for them. She explains that thanks to Ellie's dungeon core magic, they can take lethal damage and be torn to pieces without actually dying. The twins are confused by the strange terms dungeon core and Ellie Sama, wondering who these intruders really are. Ice Heat reveals the truth. The red dragon was just bait summoned by Ellie, and they have already achieved their primary goal. Kia realizes her hypothesis was correct. The dragon was a trap designed specifically to lure the White Knights. Ice Heat scolds Mira for giving away intel. Mira laughs, asking what it matters if they never escape. Ice Heat insists on finishing them off quickly before they use any unknown technology, while Kia declares it is impossible for them to lose. The twins are offended at being called weak elves and launch a high-speed attack. Mira and Ice Heat effortlessly dodge the sword strikes, with Mira letting out a casual oops. The battle intensifies as both sides exchange rapid attacks and energy blasts in the corridor. The twins boast that they have awakened Master Blood and trained as submasters to level 1800. They shout that the intruders are stupid to underestimate the White Knights and vow to show their full power. Nier attacks from above, deciding not to kill them yet so they can extract information, calling them baby squirrels. Kia suggests cutting off their limbs and taking them home as live captives. Mira mocks them as dwarf elves who bark but don't bite, deciding to play with them as mere toys. Meanwhile, Sharfat is panicking, realizing the captain is going to scold him severely for missing the trap. He examines the pillars and materials, deducing that he has been teleported to a different floor. He spots a figure in the distance and calls out, asking which floor they are currently on. The figure turns around. It is Suzu, the gunner, standing silently with her weapon. Sharfat is immediately captivated by her appearance, muttering how beautiful. He switches to gentleman mode, offering to escort the beautiful lady out if she tells him her name. Suzu remains silent, but her sentient musket Locke speaks up, insulting the shiry man for hitting on his partner. Locke introduces himself and Suzu, bluntly telling Sharfat he is going to die right now. Sharfat realizes with horror that Suzu is the enemy responsible for the trap, and laments his bad luck. Suddenly, Sharfat declares he doesn't want to fight but wants to make love, not war, confessing he is completely in love. Suzu is visibly shocked and horrified by the sudden confession. Locke rejects him on Suzu's behalf, stating it is physically impossible and his partner is not interested. Sharfat desperately asks what kind of person Suzu likes, so he can change himself to fit her type. Locke describes Suzu's type: black hair, gentlemanly, and a pretty face, obviously describing light. Locke tells Sharfat to give up, then orders Suzu to fack up his barrel, shoot him. Sharfat decides that if she won't accept him, he will do everything he can to make her his by force. He unleashes his artifact weapons skill, Invisible Arrow. Suzu performs a high-speed acrobatic dodge to evade the invisible projectile. She takes aim with her musket mid-dodge, locking onto Sharfat. She fires a powerful magic bullet to counter his attack. The bullet collides with another invisible arrow in midair, neutralizing the threat. Sharfat is shocked that she was able to detect and deflect his invisible crossbow bolt. Instead of being deterred, Sharfat smiles creepily, saying he likes her even more now that she can protect herself. Mira and Ice Heat stand amidst the tower pillars, mocking the elves as little squirrels who are just jumping around. The twins curse their bad luck, but arrogantly warn the intruders about the consequences of giving them the advantage. The twins launch their first magical attack, Wind Cutter. Mira is disappointed by the high-speed chanting, mocking their bad luck, though she admits elves are at least capable of this much. The twins fire Wind Cutter, again filling the air with magic blades. Mira and Ice Heat dodge the barrage effortlessly with a casual oops. Ice Heat complains that they can't keep dodging forever since they can't attack while moving, though Mira finds the chase wonderful. The twins boast that they can maintain this degree of movement and attack for half a day straight. Ice Heat shouts and then, as Mira moves to attack, but one twin manages to stab Mira's arm with a dagger. Ice Heat yells Mira in shock as the blade connects. The twins press their advantage, attacking the wounded Mira with their swords. Mira's right arm is severed and the twins laugh maniacally, celebrating taking her arm first. Ice Heat watches the fight calmly, dismissing the violence as a mere street performance. Mira picks up her severed arm and reattaches it instantly, while Ice Heat questions if taking the experiment was really necessary. Ice Heat sighs in disappointment, admitting she never thought the elves would be this weak. The twins panic, accusing the intruders of bluffing and claiming they couldn't even touch them. Mira laughs, calling them idiots and telling them to look closely at their swords. The twins stare at their blades in shock. There is not even a drop of blood on them. Mira reveals she just made it look like she was cut. Her arm isn't even scratched unless a knife is actually stuck in it. Mira's face splits open terrifyingly as she prepares to show them something more interesting. The twins scream, "What the hell?" As Mira's body begins to distort. Ice Heat watches with a sigh. Mira's body shifts and reforms in a monstrous display of power. Mira laughs, announcing that her arm is back to normal and fully functional. Mira shows a dark, jagged grin, promising to show them something even more interesting while the twins recoil. Mira rips her head. Multiple laughing heads burst from her head, paralyzing the twins with fear as Mira realizes she skipped introductions. Aigu says she can play dodgeball without a ball. Ice Heat introduces Mira as a Chimera, level 7777, and herself as a Grappler, level 7777. Mira explains her body is structured like a chimera. Her parts are independent creatures that can detach and reabsorb. Mira demonstrates her skills, shifting her arm into a monstrous, swirling shape. The twins panic, screaming that level 7777 is impossible, and more than double their commander's level. They refuse to believe it, claiming the intruders are just running around and the heads are a trick. The twins grit their teeth, sweating, claiming they were just testing the intruders' ability to save face. Screaming "Screw you," the twins launch another desperate wind cutter. Mira and Ice Heat dodge easily again, mocking the twins' lousy acting and asking if they got nervous. Ice Heat yawns, asking if the little squirrels can try a little harder, leaving the twins dumbfounded. The twins spam Wind Cutter, in denial, screaming it can't be real, while the intruders remain unbothered. Mira calls them sloppy and notes they achieved their goal as the twins switch to Thunder Arrow. Mira claims the attacks are so low-level they don't even need to defend, asking why the elves don't get it yet. The twins charge in with swords, screaming they will stab and cut them up. The swords bounce off Mira and Ice Heat's bodies like toys, proving ordinary weapons are useless. It's like watching a toddler try to fight a tank with a pool noodle. At some point, you just have to admire the lack of survival instinct. Ice Heat questions the point of the experiment if this is all the elves can do, though she trusts Erie's intelligence. Mira says, well then, causing the twins to scream and run away in terror. Ice Heat wonders if they are pretending to escape for a plan, but Mira notes the exit is closed anyway. Ice Heat advises caution, but Mira dismisses it, telling her she is overthinking. Mira transforms her arm into a massive cluster of spikes, saying, let me get ready. Good grief. Mira unleashes a massive barrage of spikes with a single word, here. The elven twins flee down the tower corridor at high speed, desperate to put distance between themselves and the monsters. Nia and Kia scream in panic, refusing to believe the monsters are really level 7777 and stronger than the dragon. They find a wall and cheer, deciding to run along it to find the exit. They convince themselves they are faster than the monsters, but Nia suddenly senses something is terribly wrong. Nia stops running, confused as to why she is suddenly sweating so profusely. Kia notices the change too, asking if the air is getting hotter. The heat intensifies rapidly, causing them physical distress as they groan in pain. They realize that if they don't prepare their defenses immediately, they will be burned to death. They begin to chant together to create a glacier, aiming to build a wall between them and the heat. A massive ice wall erupts from the ground, shielding them from the corridor. Inside the ice shelter, the air cools down and the twins sigh in momentary relief. Suddenly, the massive ice wall begins to melt away uncontrollably. Nia screams that they need to put it up again, realizing the enemy is using tactics-class magic. They desperately chant again to recreate the glacier wall between them and the enemy. The new wall melts even faster than the previous one, terrifying the twins. Steam hisses violently as the heat penetrates the ice from the side they just repaired. The temperature continues to rise, causing the twins to scream in terror as their shelter fails. They scream, damn it, unable to understand what the hell is wrong with these monsters. Ice Heat is revealed, channeling intense fire magic through her gauntlet as she prepares to attack. It turns out that fighting a fire user in an enclosed hallway is about as smart as having a snowball fight in a microwave. A massive fiery avatar of Ifrit manifests behind Ice Heat, radiating sweltering heat. The twins scream no, and force themselves to chant one more time to survive the incoming attack. The heat wave reaches them, and they scream as the flames close in. They cast Ice Wall one last time in a desperate bid for survival. The magic melts and shatters before it can even fully form against the overwhelming heat. The fire blasts through their defenses completely, leaving them exposed to the full force of the attack. The entire corridor is consumed by sweltering heat waves and steam. Mira and Ice Heat walk casually through the steam. Ice Heat announces, here. The twins lie scorched and defeated on the floor, looking completely broken. Ice Heat explains they are only alive thanks to Erie's protection spell on the tower preventing death. Ice Heat admits she got fired up and set up a ranged attack, complaining they are too weak for experiments. Mira agrees, noting that if they didn't know their own power, they wouldn't be in this tower. They decide to follow their lord's orders since the experiment failed. Mira looms over them, promising to break their minds. She states she can't kill them yet, but will make them experience the pain they inflicted on humans. The elves hang upside down bound by tentacles, weeping and begging for help. Mira asks why she should help them when they laughed at humans begging for forgiveness. Mira declares they must suffer and repent for their sins until they yield information. A close-up reveals Mira's terrifying, multi-eyed, monstrous form staring them down. The chapter ends with Mira's monstrous form engulfing the screaming twins in darkness. The invisible crossbow, a terrifying artifact-grade weapon that casts invisible bolts which are impossible to track with the naked eye. On the second floor of the giant tower, the battle is already underway as Suzu aims this magical weapon at her opponent. The elf man, however, is completely unbothered, grinning widely and greeting Suzu with a cheerful "hi there," while dodging the invisible fire. Unlike standard crossbows, this weapon utilizes magic to fire automatically without any need for physical loading, allowing for a relentless assault. Suzu slides backward across the corridor, unleashing a hail of bolts with an extremely high rate of fire, the sound of 400 echoing with every shot. The elf weaves through the barrage effortlessly, calling Suzu Little Bunny-chan and declaring that the warm-up is over. It is time for the main event. While dodging, the elf wonders aloud how he should corner her prey, confident he has Suzu exactly where he wants her. Suddenly, the elf is forced to physically deflect arrows with a shout of "ho!" realizing that some shots were fired slowly and traveled in strange directions. The rhythm changes instantly as the next volley accelerates. The elf notes that this time the arrows are fast, but remains confident she can avoid them. Suzu, noticing the elf's dodge pattern, calls out to her weapon as "my companion," signaling the activation of his trap. The elf pauses, realizing the trick too late. The slow arrows fired earlier were timed perfectly to arrive at the same moment as the fast ones. Suzu reveals her strategy. She didn't shoot randomly. She read the elf's movements and aimed specifically for the path the elf would take to avoid the fast bolts. The elf is impressed, admitting Suzu is pretty good for an elf, but his grin widens as he declares the real show starts here. Using supernatural speed, the elf zigzags through the air, creating afterimages and closing the distance between herself and Suzu in a heartbeat. He crashes through the final line of defense, screaming "here we go," as he prepares to strike Suzu at close range. Suzu desperately retreats down the hall, but the elf mocks her, shouting that she is just running away and that her escape paths are dwindling. The elf taunts Suzu further, correctly deducing that Suzu's plan is simply to stall until the elf runs out of magic. Cutting off the retreat, the elf boasts that Suzu could never beat someone like me, and predicts Suzu's movement to the side. Confident he has won, the elf unleashes a massive point-blank magic attack, screaming "checkmate" as he strikes. A massive explosion engulfs the corridor, and the elf laughs nervously, admitting she might have overdid it a little. However, Suzu survives the blast and prepares her counter. The elf analyzes the situation, realizing Suzu possesses highly skilled marksmanship and an extremely powerful magical weapon. Standing amidst the smoke, the elf says, "I thought I killed you, but I didn't," relieved that the battle can continue. Suddenly, the elf drops his guard and changes the subject to romance, telling Suzu to forget about Light Sama because he is a boring guy. He creates an incredibly awkward moment by suggesting Suzu would be much happier if she surrendered and became the elf's girlfriend instead. Suzu stares in disbelief, asking, "What the hell did you just say?" And Locke says that now elf is a complicated suicide candidate. Suzu's demeanor snaps completely, her mind consumed by a single repeating command: kill. The weapon's energy output spikes to 500, and the elf, confused by the sudden dark aura, stammers out a confused, and Locke calls him an idiot. Suzu's face is completely shadowed in rage, while her weapon actually gains sentience to beg her to calm down, partner. The barrel of the weapon transforms and charges up, the sound effects screaming "kill" as the magic reaches critical mass. Lock the musket Suzu is carrying, establishing it as a magic weapon capable of firing bullets created directly from Suzu's magic. The narration highlights the weapon's most dangerous feature: the ability to rapid-fire these magical projectiles at will. Suzu's firing rate is revealed to be terrifyingly high, launching more than 1,000 rounds per minute at her target. Consumed by rage, Suzu screams "kill," while her sentient weapon desperately begs her to calm down for a moment. The weapon continues to plead with her to wait a bit, trying to act as the voice of reason amidst the chaos. Suzu ignores the advice, cursing her opponent as a bastard, and muttering that this situation has got to be kidding me. She snaps completely, screaming "fuck this," and deciding to ignore the physical burden of using the invisible crossbow. With a shout of maximum rapid fire, Suzu engages her magic focus, pushing her offensive capabilities to their absolute limit. He unleashes Samadare, a rain of fire, commanding herself to shoot beyond your limits with the invisible crossbow. In a blind fury, Suzu vows to shoot them all down, showing she is willing to destroy her own crossbow to secure the kill. The elf opponent is terrified, calling Suzu a monster, and realizing that his defense can't keep up with this level of rapid fire. The elf takes a hit but tries to maintain bravado, shouting "not yet," and claiming the wound is just a scratch. However, the elf's confidence crumbles as he feels a strange pain spreading all over his body from the single impact. Realization strikes the elf as she clutches his chest, screaming poison, as the toxicity takes hold. The narration confirms that Suzu's bullets are nasty work. They possess an abnormal status effect designed to debilitate the target. Suzu does not let up, firing a continuous stream of these status-inflicting rounds while the elf desperately tries to evade. A bullet connects squarely with the elf's face, exploding in a burst of magic that guarantees the status effect is applied. A system notification appears next to the elf, confirming he has been inflicted with confusion. The notifications stack up rapidly as the elf is hit by darkening vision, hallucination, hypnotize, and paralyze all at once. The elf is completely overwhelmed by the curse and the sheer volume of fire, unable to offer any further resistance. Suzu finally stops firing, the smoke clearing to reveal the devastation caused by her Samadare barrage. The elf lies in a defeated heap, and Suzu remarks she is surprised the opponent is still alive after taking that much damage. Suzu steps onto the fallen elf's body, her eyes glowing with bloodlust as she whispers "kill." Locke screams "calm the fuck down partner," warning Suzu that killing him in this tower won't kill him anyway. Desperate to stop her, Locke warns he'll see what's up your skirt, which finally snaps Suzu out of her berserker rage. The weapon sighs in relief, muttering "good grief. You've got to be kidding me," as Suzu covers her skirt in embarrassment. Locke scolds Suzu, asking if she forgot Light Sama's instructions, pointing out she beat the enemy before they could even test his strength. Panic sets in and Suzu starts frantically trying to heal the battered opponent, while Locke tells her it's a waste of magic. Locke switches to emotional support, assuring a crying Suzu that Light is kind, and he won't get mad at you or dump you. The chapter ends with Suzu sobbing, "really, really," while the narration notes Locke had to comfort her for longer than the battle actually lasted. The elf warrior stands alone in the vast corridor, realizing his companions have been transported elsewhere, leaving him isolated. He is greeted by Jack, a massive armored figure leaning on a halberd, who compliments him for surviving this far. Jack introduces himself with a grin that screams danger. "I'm level 7777 body of steel, Jack." Jack confirms they are on the third floor of the giant tower, and that it is currently just the two of them. The elf is naturally suspicious of traps, but Jack assures him that he has no need for such underhanded methods. Jack lays out the rules: a simple fight between men where the winner takes all, no boring tricks required. He explains that it isn't his hobby to bully the weak, showing a strange sense of honor for a monster. Jack offers the elf a chance to surrender right now, suggesting it would be better than things getting ugly. The elf furiously rejects the offer, shouting that a human being level 7777 is socially impossible and a lie. When the elf questions if Jack has an appraisal skill, Jack replies he doesn't need numbers to know he's stronger. The elf charges in, screaming "I'll beat you," while Jack simply stands there, calling the elf unexpectedly smart. Jack welcomes the challenge, noting that a direct fight is the fastest way to prove who is weak and who is strong. The elf mocks Jack as a stupid human, confident that the difference in their species' power will be the deciding factor. He swings his massive weapon, promising to send Jack to meet his maker with a single decisive hit. Jack stops the attack with his bare hand, calling the elf slow as the elf's eyes widen in shock. The elf pushes with all his might, but Jack's defense is immovable, turning the elf's confidence into sweat and fear. Thrown back by the force of the block, the elf screams unbelievable and demands to know what is happening. His mind races, unable to process that a human could be this strong, shattering his worldview. He realizes Jack is blocking his attacks randomly and playfully, a feat that even his squad leader couldn't replicate. The elf compares Jack to squad leader Hardy, realizing the gap in power is even wider than he feared. The elf is beaten down, grunting in pain as he hits the floor, his armor cracked and his stamina draining. As the dust settles, Jack stands barely moving, while the elf is on his knees, panting heavily. The elf questions Jack again, unable to accept that the ridiculous level 7777 might actually be the truth. Despite the fear, the elf stands up, declaring he cannot lose because of his duty as a white knight of the Elven Kingdom. Jack latches onto a phrase the elf used to save people and asks for clarification on what exactly that means. The elf recalls the doctrine: saving humans means releasing them from their suffering by killing them. He screams that humans are ugly, weak, and untalented, and that exterminating them is actually an act of kindness. Jack looks at the elf like he's insane, calling him an idiot, and asking how murder can possibly be considered salvation. The elf refuses to listen, claiming his noble ideals are too complex for a mere human to understand. Realizing he can't win with normal strength, the elf commands his great halberd to devour his own life force. A massive aura erupts as the elf sacrifices his lifespan, screaming for the strength to defeat Jack. Jack isn't worried. In fact, he grins savagely, telling the elf to squeeze it all out so he can crush him at his best. The elf pushes his physical and spiritual limits, screaming for more power to defeat the monster standing before him. The narrative explains his weapon, the strong arm halberd, is an heirloom that grants the user power comparable to a commander for 3 minutes. However, the elf realizes with despair that even if he equals Commander Hardy, it still might not be enough to beat a level 7777. Jack observes the elf's determination, calling him a self-righteous bastard, but admitting his spirit is the real thing. He decides to honor that spirit by fighting seriously, tossing his jacket aside to engage in a proper brawl. The elf screams a massive war cry, channeling every ounce of his life force into one desperate charge. Jack responds by activating Iron Body, his skin darkening and transforming into an impenetrable metallic shell. Spikes erupt from Jack's body, turning him into a living fortress as the elf brings his weapon down. Jack stands unmoved, boasting that his outfit is pretty solid and taunting the elf to hit him with 100 times more energy. The attack lands, but the result is catastrophic for the elf. His artifact-grade halberd shatters into pieces against Jack's chest. Jack stands amidst the falling debris, noting that the elf was simply unfortunate to have matched up against him. Blood sprays from the elf's face as the shockwave of the impact rebounds, crushing his body. Jack doesn't let up, launching a flurry of high-speed punches, screaming "Aura, aura, aura," as he dominates the fight. With a final devastating blow, Jack blasts the elf across the room, burying him into the wall of the tower. The dust settles and Jack suddenly panics, wondering if he accidentally killed the suicide candidate he was supposed to save. Relief washes over Jack as he holds up the limp body, praising Erie's technique for allowing him to beat someone half to death without killing them. He speaks to the unconscious warrior, telling him his principles are trash and he couldn't be a bro, but respects that he didn't run. Jack drags the battered elf away like a sack of potatoes, wondering if his colleagues have finished their fights yet. Nazuna stands confidently on the 4th floor, introducing herself as the strongest, and declaring she is the #1 subordinate of her master in terms of strength. The elf commander Hardy is confused by the sudden teleportation, but Nazuna rudely interrupts his train of thought by shouting, "Hey, old man." Nazuna confirms their hostile relationship, explaining that she was ordered by her master to fight him specifically to test her own strength. Hardy realizes he has been completely set up, understanding that this entire situation was orchestrated by the person Nazuna calls Master. He analyzes his opponent, sensing that despite her appearance as a young girl, she possesses an incredible level of skill and strength that is far from ordinary. Deciding to stop overthinking the situation, Hardy dismisses his hesitation with a simple, "but whatever," and focuses on the battle. He draws his sword with lethal intent, declaring he will kill her quickly so he can return to the main battlefield. Hardy lunges forward with blinding speed, aiming to cut Nazuna down in a single strike before she can react. However, Nazuna vanishes completely from his field of vision just as his attack is about to connect, moving faster than he can perceive. She reappears instantly inside his guard, closing the distance before the strongest elf can even process her movement. With zero hesitation, Nazuna buries her fist into Hardy's midsection, landing a devastating blow directly on his armor. The force of the punch crumples the metal armor like paper and sends a massive shockwave ripping through his internal organs. Hardy is blasted off his feet, flying backward through the air as if he were hit by a siege weapon. He slams violently into the stone wall of the tower, the impact force cracking the solid structure behind him. The wall crumbles around him, burying the commander in a massive pile of debris and dust. The room falls dead silent as the dust settles, the battle having started and ended in a single second. Nazuna looks at her own hand with a bored expression, starting to mutter, "That was." She finishes her sentence with, "Weak," clearly disappointed that the legendary elf commander couldn't survive one hit. Nazuna stands casually over the wreckage, looking like she barely put in any effort at all to defeat the floor boss. Eri arrives on the scene silently, observing the destruction and the defeated opponent with a calm gaze. Nazuna frantically apologizes to Eri, not for the violence, but because she almost fell on her ass in front of Light and looked uncool. Eri sighs, ignoring the excuse and pointing out that Nazuna failed to control her strength and instantly took out Commander Hardy. Eri lectures Nazuna, understanding her excitement but insisting she must learn to suppress her strength to be useful. She warns that if Nazuna destroys everything she touches, the damage will be bigger than Light wants, making her a liability. When asked if she is fine with being unreliable, Nazuna looks devastated and admits, "I'm not fine with it." Eri softens slightly, telling her to just remember to use less force next time so she doesn't break the walls. Eri accepts the apology as long as Nazuna understands, while the unconscious Hardy begins to groan in the rubble. Eri steps forward and casts intermediate healing on the battered commander to wake him up for interrogation. Hardy gasps awake, coughing and confused, realizing he is still alive despite the catastrophic damage. She smiles pleasantly down at him, like saying, "Good morning, White Knight Commander Hardy," as if nothing happened. Nazuna said, "Leave this to me." Hardy stands amidst the ruins of his armor, admitting that years of wet work destroying weak human villages made him soft and arrogant. He apologizes to Nazuna for looking down on her, vowing to finally put his whole body and spirit into this fight as a true warrior. He thanks his beloved sword for shielding him from instant death earlier, and thanks Nazuna for giving him time to recover. With a shout of "Silent," Hardy activates his rare skill, enveloping the battlefield in a magic that shakes off his hesitation. A massive transparent dome expands, trapping both combatants in a space where silence reigns supreme. Hardy explains that inside this spell, the silence is so deep it drowns out even the sound of breathing while corroding the soul. He reveals the first effect of Silent is a debuff that continuously lowers the enemy's status without them noticing. Then he activates Silent Reverse, a trump card known only to him and the Queen, as dark energy swirls around him. This ability allows him to stockpile the status stolen from enemies over hundreds of years, and add it to his own limits. Hardy declares he is wagering every ounce of power he has accumulated throughout his centuries of battle on this one fight. He summons the Hermit's Sword, a weapon that manifests from the dark magic of his skill, and prepares to draw it. Hardy boasts that this sword is unique to him and cannot be operated by any other living being. The blade, born of the silent skill, glows with ominous energy as Hardy fully unleashes his potential. He stares down Nazuna, promising to show her the terrifying power of Silent Hardy when he doesn't hold back. Nazuna doesn't say a word, simply raising her fists into a basic fighting stance. Hardy overanalyzes this, wondering if she is daring him to use his weapon because her greatsword is too slow to counter it. He resolves to defeat her quickly and force her to reveal the identity and intentions of her master. The two stand ready inside the silent sphere, with Hardy believing he has the absolute tactical advantage. He interprets Nazuna's silence as fear, assuming her lack of battle experience is making her hesitate. Hardy fixates on her backwards-facing posture, convinced it is a fatal flaw he can exploit. He gloats that thanks to his stockpiled power, he has overwhelmingly surpassed the limits of the entire elf race. Seeing Nazuna move, Hardy smirks, believing she is attacking impatiently out of fear and inexperience. He swings his hermit's sword, shouting that he will cut her in two before she can close the distance. Nazuna steps inside his guard faster than thought and plants a fist squarely into his face. Hardy is launched across the room like a missile, slamming into the tower wall with explosive force. The wall cracks into a massive spiderweb pattern, but miraculously, it does not collapse or shatter completely. Hardy slides down the wall, unconscious and defeated, while his legendary sword vanishes into nothingness. Nazuna throws her hands up in victory, cheering, "All right," because she successfully adjusted her power and didn't break the wall. Ziri appears behind her with a terrifying aura, causing Nazuna to scream "Eek!" and plead her case immediately. Eri yells that cracking the wall is basically the same as breaking it because she still has to repair it. She scolds Nazuna for wasting mana and failing to pull her punches properly despite the warnings. Nazuna cries that she tried her best, but Eri snaps and calls her a virgin in the heat of the argument. Nazuna defends herself by sobbing that the fairy maids taught her that word, shifting the blame instantly. Eri curses the little rascals for corrupting her teammate, momentarily distracted from the wall damage. The chapter ends with Nazuna running away crying for her lord, while Eri chases her, leaving the unconscious Hardy forgotten in the corner. Light asks Eri if she is recovering well, noting that she exhausted a significant amount of mana during the previous confrontation. Eri admits that her mana loss wasn't just from magic, but from the sheer terror of hearing Nazuna scream, which made her legs shake uncontrollably. Light reflects on the battle, noting that while Nazuna secured the win as intended, the fight ended much faster than he anticipated. He analyzes the defeated commander, disappointed that Silent Hardy only possessed a temporary level-up skill and an invisible sword. Even if the enemy's level had risen to 4,000, Light calculates that it would still be statistically insignificant compared to Nazuna's power. Light muses that Nazuna behaves like a spoiled child, possibly because she was the very last super-ultra-rare card he summoned. He expresses concern that this childish nature causes everyone in his organization to spoil her, which might be bad for her development. Despite her attitude, Nazuna's physical stats are superiorly high, with magic resistance being her only flaw. Light recalls a sparring session where he teamed Eri and Aoyuki against Nazuna, and the battle was so intense he couldn't even determine a winner. He realizes that even the strict maids, the ice heat, can't resist Nazuna's charm, treating her like the baby of the group. Light mentally categorizes his top subordinates as a family. Mei is the eldest sister, Aoyuki the second, Eri the genius third, and Nazuna the youngest. He amuses himself with the title the Four Sisters, just as he senses the guests finally arriving at the boss room door. Eri apologizes for the earlier chaos, claiming it surprisingly helped calm her nerves. Outside, Michael instructs his companion Sasha to focus, while inside, Light grins, eagerly waiting for the show to begin. Michael and Sasha step into the corridor, wary of traps that even their best scout failed to detect. They are confused by the pristine carpet laid out in the hallway, feeling as though the tower is inviting them deeper in. Michael orders Sasha to prepare the phantom-grade item lent by the Count, warning her to be ready to use it instantly. He takes the lead, commanding Sasha to walk only in his footsteps to avoid triggering any hidden mechanisms. They turn the corner and spot the massive double doors, realizing they have reached the final destination. Michael braces himself for a battle with a red dragon or a boss monster, noting the room gives off standard dungeon vibes. The heavy doors swing open automatically, inviting the two elves to step into the lion's den. They enter the grand hall to find Light sitting comfortably on the throne, flanked by his terrifyingly powerful subordinates. Light ignores the tension and casually greets the elf woman, saying, "Long time no see, Sasha." Confused, Michael asks if they know each other, but Sasha frantically denies it, claiming she only met him once briefly. Sasha spits out insults, calling Light disgusting, but Light ignores her to mention the days he and Sasha explored dungeons together. Sasha loses her composure completely, screaming that she would never explore with an inferior and claiming mistaken identity. Light drops the act and shifts his gaze, uttering the name Rear to trigger her memory. Sasha freezes in pure terror as the realization of who sits before her finally crashes down. Light leans forward, repeating his greeting slowly, "Long time no see, Sasha." The chapter ends with Light dropping the facade and declaring, "I'm here for my revenge after 3 whole years." Sasha stares in disbelief, stammering as she realizes the man on the throne is actually Light, alive and well. Light reveals that his burnt face was merely an illusion, and he halted his physical growth to keep the memory of their betrayal fresh. Michael identifies Light as the discarded master candidate, and Light confirms he survived the hellish abyss teleportation trap. Light explains he clawed his way back to the surface for one reason: to exact revenge on Sasha and her party. Spreading his arms wide, Light declares that he built the entire giant tower solely to facilitate this grand vengeance. Sasha is horrified, unable to comprehend the sheer scale of power required to build a tower just for a grudge. Michael bursts into manic laughter, thanking Sasha for being a goddess of luck who delivered this opportunity to him. He grins savagely, realizing that they have the chance to personally kill the survivor of the abyss with their own hands. Michael's delusion peaks as he claims killing Light will secure his unborn daughter's future as the Elf Queen. Sneering at his memory of Commander Hardy, Michael is convinced that they will be the ones to claim victory. He plans to torture the secrets of the tower out of Light after the battle, while Sasha tries to calm his manic state. Michael arrogantly dismisses the threat, stating that the superior elf race has nothing to fear from a human's power. He places his faith in the treasured item from the Count, and the two elves resolve to beat the nasty Light. Sasha points her finger accusingly at the throne, screaming "Light," as she readies herself for the confrontation. She mocks him for hiding like a worm, shouting that his plan for revenge will only result in his own destruction. Light raises a hand to halt his subordinates, ordering Aoyuki and Iri to stand down and not interfere. The subordinates bow respectfully, accepting the command with a unified "Understood, Your Excellency." Light descends the steps of the throne, announcing with a cold gaze that his revenge is finally beginning. Sasha gloats that she is now beyond level 500, claiming she trained hard to become a suitable wife for Michael, bragging about being level 500 to a guy who built a 100-floor dungeon is like bringing a plastic spoon to a nuclear war. Sasha reveals she has a secret weapon up her sleeve, while Light watches with an unimpressed expression. She brings the angel ocarina to her lips, playing a melody that fills the room with magical energy. Light initially suspects a sound-based mental attack, but magic circles suddenly erupt from the floor. 3 massive, armored figures materialize from the light, causing Light to mutter "angels" in genuine surprise. Sasha explains that the angel ocarina is a phantasm-class treasure capable of summoning these divine constructs. She taunts Light, screaming for him to crumble before their love and be slaughtered like an insect. One angel swings a massive weapon, forcing Light to dodge and exclaim "Whoa" at the unexpected speed. Light lands, noting the attack cracked the special floor, but observes the attacker has left itself wide open. As he prepares to counter, a second angel carrying a massive tower shield steps in to protect the attacker. Light decides to stop playing around and resolves to break through both the shield and the attacker simultaneously. A blinding wall of light erupts as Light's attack collides with the defensive angel's shield. With a shout of "How about that?" Light unleashes a shattering blow intended to pulverize the defense. The impact sends debris flying everywhere, burying the angels in a cloud of dust and magical shards. Light analyzes the result, noting he broke the shield and arms, but the enemy surprisingly didn't fall. To his shock, the broken shield and the angel's injuries begin to regenerate instantly before his eyes. Light spots the third figure in the back, realizing it is casting powerful recovery magic to sustain the others. He identifies the Trinity, a physical attack angel, a physical defense knight, and a magician statue acting as a healer. Light stands calmly before the elven forces, his presence commanding despite the overwhelming odds arrayed against him. He reveals that he didn't just survive the fall into the abyss, but actually trained there to acquire his current strength. With a confident smile, Light states his current status, dropping the impossible number that defies their reality, level 9999. Michael and Sasha are visibly shaken, refusing to believe the number and clinging to the common sense that a human cannot exceed a commander. Sasha snaps, ordering her angels to kill the filthy human, convincing herself that Light is just trash who got slightly stronger. Light dodges the massive angel's attack with ease, declaring he will show them right now that his level is not a lie. He activates Shadow Dance, his movements becoming a blur of darkness as he weaves through the enemy lines faster than they can track. Sasha is shocked to witness him cast Fire Shield without a chant, a feat that proves his high-level magic mastery. Light unleashes a simultaneous barrage of Ice Sword and Fire Arrow, declaring that the enemy can no longer recover from this. The angels are obliterated by the magical bombardment, their armored bodies shattering into pieces under the overwhelming assault. Sasha smirks and plays her angel ocarina, instantly resummoning the destroyed angels without consuming any of her own magic. Light analyzes the artifact, realizing the ocarina allows for infinite mana-free resummoning and that the angels are stronger than predicted. He decides to ignore the infinite puppets and dashes past them, aiming directly for the summoner Sasha to end the loop. Michael steps in with his massive tower shield, blocking Light's strike and warning him not to touch his fiancée with filthy hands. Light smirks, correcting Michael that it is his cane, not his hands, that is making contact with the defense. Suddenly, Light is knocked back by a mysterious force, wondering if the impact he felt was a shield bash despite Michael not moving. Michael laughs, revealing that he didn't move at all. Light was hit by the reflection of his own attack. He explains his Phantasm-class shield, Blessing and Punishment, which repels fools by returning their damage as heaven's punishment. Michael gloats that the shield also raises the status parameters of anyone he recognizes as a comrade, buffing the angels. He declares the angels will keep moving until he says stop, creating an invincible army of infinite reinforcements. He adds that if Light tries to attack him, the damage will be returned, creating a perfect offensive and defensive wall. Michael taunts Light, asking how does that feel, to be driven into a corner by the superior power of the elf race. He unleashes a torrent of insults, calling Light garbage, crappy little fish, and a slug in a fit of arrogance. Michael mocks Light's intelligence, claiming a human brain with its very little brain can't comprehend that the battle was over before it began. He grins widely, telling Light it would be impossible not to break in the face of this absolute despair. Instead of crying, Light bursts into maniacal laughter, clutching his face and asking incredulously, "This kind of thing is despair." Light's expression shifts to pure madness as he thanks them for the laugh and promises to show them what true despair actually looks like. The maids scream, "You mustn't," and Lord Light, terrified because they know exactly what horror he is about to unleash. Ignoring their pleas, Light speaks the command code 9999, initiating the first Soul Seal limiter release as the world begins to shake. The chapter opens with a redacted report on the God Spear, a weapon whose information is too dangerous to disclose. Light reveals the Gungnir Shinto Burial, the single extra class card he managed to pull after 3 years of non-stop gacha. The maids explain that the weapon's power is so immense that even their level 9999 appraisal skills could not comprehend it. To contain this danger, they had to use the souls of 4 level 9999 beings, just to design a sealing technique. Light removes the first of the 4 seals, accepting the burden of the power while his subordinates watch in terror. A chaotic storm of dark energy erupts from the spear, swirling around Light like a living shadow. The pressure of the weapon's existence is so heavy that the physical ground and walls of the tower begin to crack. A blinding flash of light engulfs the room, signaling that the first stage of the God Spear has been awakened. Light stares down the elves, promising to fulfill his word and show them exactly what true despair looks like. Michael and Sasha are frozen in place, their common sense shattered by the brutal aura radiating from the human. In a panic, Sasha screams for her invincible angels to kill that monster before he can do anything. The angel brings its massive weapon down, putting all its divine strength into a single crushing blow. Light doesn't even dodge. He blocks the attack effortlessly with his spear, stopping the construct cold. He swings Gungnir and a wave of black energy slashes through the air, ignoring all resistance. The angel, its shield, and its armor are sliced completely in half, separated as easily as paper. A massive shockwave erupts from the slash, blowing away the debris and leaving silence in its wake. Light notices the angel flinch before it fell, intrigued by the reaction from a non-living construct. He turns to the remaining defenses, wondering if these divine beings are capable of feeling terror and despair. The massive angel construct slides apart, its divine code glitching into garbled text as it collapses before Sasha's eyes. Sasha screams at Michael to heal the unit, but it is clear that the damage inflicted by the God Spear is beyond repair. Michael stares blankly, his mind unable to process the limitless Gacha level 9999 text flashing before his eyes. Desperate to survive, Sasha screams at her partner to resummon it, forcing him to snap out of his shock. Light glances at his right arm, noting that the spear's power bypassed his defenses and caused significant burn damage. However, he grins like a madman, deciding that sacrificing an arm is a cheap price to pay to inflict absolute despair. The God Spear pulses with a dark aura, and Light notices the remaining angels flinching in what looks like fear. Intrigued by their resurrection mechanics, Light watches as Michael decides to play their final trump card. Sasha commands the units to merge, and they combine to form the massive, multi-winged High Angel. The entity launches a holy javelin, while Sasha screams that this is divine punishment for ruining her happiness. She laughs hysterically, confident that this ace in the hole will vaporize Light completely, leaving no bones behind. Sasha continues to gloat, claiming that being purified by holy light is the only fitting end for a filthy inferior. The smoke clears to reveal Light standing completely unharmed, asking if she really thought that level of attack would work. Sasha's confidence shatters instantly, and she screams for the High Angel to fire again at maximum output. The construct gathers every ounce of its holy energy, preparing to wipe Light from existence with a second strike. Light counters by swinging his spear, unleashing a dragon-shaped wave of darkness that simply eats the holy light. With a terrifying grin, Light asks if they are done attacking, signaling that the real battle is just beginning. He walks casually through the aftermath of the blast, an unstoppable force of vengeance closing in on his prey. Sasha screams impossible as she realizes their strongest weapon has failed to even scratch him. Light laughs maniacally, mocking their efforts and shouting harder, "Do your best," as he breaks their spirits. The chapter concludes with Light bathed in dark flame, smiling demonically as he assures them, "You are gonna be killed by me, see." Light stands amidst swirling dark energy, challenging the elves, while Sasha screams in panic for her High Angel to do something. He calmly analyzes the 3-in-1 attack of the fused entity, unimpressed by their combined might. As the energy engulfs him, Light dismisses the effort as still useless against his power. A massive explosion of contrasting energies rips through the hall, shaking the very foundations of the tower. The smoke clears to reveal the angel destroyed, and Sasha frantically screams at the empty air to resurrect immediately. The ocarina crumbles in her hands, and she realizes with horror that the resurrection magic has been nullified. Light explains that divine burial Gungnir is a spear made to bury gods, and its power prevents any form of resurrection. He reveals that it is a Genesis-class equipment, a tier so high it makes their phantasm treasures look like toys. Michael laughs nervously, refusing to believe a human could possess a weapon that surpasses even mythological class. He desperately argues the item hierarchy, screaming that their national treasure is phantasm class, and nothing can exceed mythological. Convinced it must be a type advantage fluke, Michael relies on his blessings and punishment shield to save him. He raises the shield, boasting that it reflects all attacks and that he will not be defeated by an inferior. Light ignores the speech and swings his spear, unleashing a wave of destruction toward the elf. The dark energy of Gungnir collides violently with the holy barrier of Michael's shield, creating a blinding flash. The invincible defense shatters like glass, unable to withstand the overwhelming force of the Genesis weapon. Michael screams in agony as the attack breaks through his defense and sends him flying backward. A massive shockwave blasts outward from the impact, cracking the walls and filling the room with debris. The dust settles to reveal Light standing calmly amidst the destruction, his spear lowered and his enemy nowhere in sight. Michael drags his broken body across the floor, groaning in pain as he tries to put distance between himself and the monster. He looks up at Light in terror, finally asking if the monster before him is the master they were looking for. Showing his true colors, Michael turns on Sasha, blaming her for the failure and calling her a disgrace. He declares he is leaving to report this incident to the Alliance, trying to frame his retreat as a tactical withdrawal. Michael activates Sky-Fleeting Wings, a treasured teleportation amulet passed down in his family. The amulet fails to activate, and Light mocks his panic, revealing that teleportation is impossible here. Light explains that the tower is covered in obstruction magic specifically designed to prevent rats from escaping. Eri chimes in, revealing she spent a year analyzing and replicating the inescapable anti-teleportation field of the abyss. Michael's face falls in absolute despair as he realizes there is no way out of the room. He clings to one last hope, screaming that Captain Hardy and the other elite elves will come to save them. Michael begs for his life, promising that if Light lets them go, they won't report anything to their country. Light ignores the plea and speaks to the open door, telling his subordinates to enter as the fight is over. The maids dump a pile of charred, beaten bodies onto the floor, Hardy, Sharfat, and the rest of the rescue team. Light smiles down at the broken elf and delivers the final blow to his spirit. What was that about hope? Light commands his subordinates to stand, assuring them that their arrival was not late but actually perfect timing. Michael and Sasha are paralyzed with fear, realizing they are now surrounded by monsters far stronger than themselves. Desperate to survive, Michael drops to his knees and prostrates himself before Light, offering a deal. He proposes that Light join forces with him to conquer the Elf Queendom, promising it will fall easily. Michael boasts of his political influence, claiming he can hand over the throne unlike the incompetent Captain Hardy. He even offers the elven women as a prize, telling Light he can do whatever he wants with them. Light rejects the offer coldly, stating that for the last 3 years he has only lived for revenge and truth. Panic sets in and Michael begs to be released, suddenly claiming he has no part in this conflict. He throws away his pride, arguing he was just following orders and never personally tried to kill Light. Sasha is horrified by the betrayal, screaming at her fiancé for abandoning their pledge to share a future. Michael snaps, calling her a filthy whore, and wishing she would just die so he doesn't get involved. He recoils from her touch in disgust, calling her an uggo and revealing his true colors. Michael confesses he always hated her, calling her a filthy, illegitimate child he only tolerated for status. Sasha breaks down in tears, realizing her love and trust were placed in a man who despises her existence. Light decides he has heard enough trash talk and asks Michael if he should kill Sasha in his place. Light informs Michael he won't be punishing him personally for the past, but instead will let the girls handle it. Ellie steps forward with a terrifyingly sweet smile, thanking Light for the opportunity to vent her rage. She looms over Michael, admitting she has been fighting the urge to brutally murder him for disrespecting her master. Ellie calls him ballsy for cursing at Light, her aura darkening with every word she speaks. Michael tries to claim he understands Light's greatness now, hoping flattery will save him from the witch. Ellie laughs, telling him his understanding is insufficient, and she needs to carve it directly into his flesh. She casts Dornfesseln, causing massive, spiked vines to erupt from the stone floor and ensnare him. Michael screams as the thorns pierce his armor and skin, the pain instantaneous and overwhelming. He struggles, confident his level is high enough to rip through the vines if he just endures the pain. Ellie reveals it is a strategic class magic cast without a chant, shattering Michael's hope of escape. The vines tighten, crushing Michael's arms and legs with sickening cracks to ensure he cannot move. Ellie leans in close, promising to look through his memories physically while he writhes in agony. She declares he will repent for his sins against Light by suffering in hellish pain before he dies. Light turns his gaze to the last remaining enemy, telling Sasha that it is finally her turn to face judgment. Sasha hyperventilates, her mind retreating to the past to find any leverage she can use to survive. She desperately brings up the gathering of species, asking if Light remembers how she comforted him back then. She claims she was the one who wiped his tears and patted his back when he cried alone. Sasha lists all the survival skills she supposedly taught him, trying to paint herself as his mentor and protector. She insists she always defended him when others mocked him, gaslighting him about their history. Light stares at her silently, forcing Sasha to scream, "Please say something," as the silence becomes unbearable. Light breaks his silence, reminding her that when she showed her true self, she gleefully tried to kill him. He confirms that her kindness was a manipulative act, and she actually looked down on humans the entire time. Sasha's mind snaps and she starts screaming, "It's not my fault," repeatedly refusing to accept guilt. In a final act of desperation, she tears her clothes open, offering her body to Light and claiming she loves him. Aoyuki steps in, furious that this woman would insult their master with false love and a filthy body. Sasha loses it completely, screaming that humans are livestock meant to be eaten, healed, and killed repeatedly. Aoyuki prepares to execute her on the spot, but Light intervenes, asking if he gave permission for that. The terrifying wolf girl instantly turns into a docile cat, apologizing with a cute Naya tilde and backing down. Light assures Sasha he won't kill her, but promises she will experience pain of the highest order. He references the beast Garu, promising to keep her alive in a similar state of constant suffering. Light sentences her to the depths of the abyss, where she will be tormented eternally without ever being allowed to die. He orders Mira to use abhorrent restraints and to drag the White Knights down to the underground with her. Mira laughs maniacally, happy to oblige, while Sasha screams in absolute terror at her fate. As they are dragged away, Light calls out, "Hold for a moment," remembering one final detail. He pulls out an arrow, remarking that he almost forgot to return the gift she gave him 3 years ago. With a fluid motion, Light throws the arrow, stabbing it deep into Sasha's leg as a parting gift. He smiles coldly, telling her she can have it back now, watching as his revenge comes full circle.